everybody. I now call to order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission for March 27th. I will start by saying in advance that please keep in mind that since our last meeting we've had 3 nor'easters and a pretend nor'easter. So the ground has been covered with snow, so there hasn't been a lot of visits and site walks due to that. So I just want to mention that, to keep that in your mind as we go through the list of hearings. So, all right, we're going to go through our continued hearings first. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public hearing to consider RDA for Highland Manor Realty Trust regarding a determination of a potential wetland area, address 826 West Street, map 514, lot 8. Is there someone here to represent the applicant?
Ken Hopefield, New Engineer.
Yes.
I think the last time, this has been an ongoing, waiting for the snow to go away.
Okay.
And so, I guess we'll...
Continue it for the next hearing.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. That will be second week in April, so.
Our next meeting is...
So let's put this, we can schedule the hearing, schedule the site walk out there for, at that next hearing. How's that?
Okay, we can do that. April 10th is our next meeting.
Okay, so we'll be able to schedule that at that meeting.
Okay.
And then
We'll go from there.
act on the following meeting.
Okay. We'll continue that to our April 10th meeting here in this room at 6 p.m. Next hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by James Barassi regarding the construction of a stone paver patio within the buffer zone of a perennial stream, address 258 Exchange Street, map 395, lot 58, DEP 199, 1063. Is there someone representing the applicant?
See that?
I don't see Matt. We definitely want to have a site walk, so we will continue that hearing and have a site walk, hopefully scheduled before then. So that'll be continued to the April 10th hearing. And I'm totally sorry. I want to introduce, because I was just going to ask her, can you make sure our new conservation, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Angela. I'm the new conservation agent for Leominster.
Hello, Angela. So she is taking Marco's position, and this is her second day, so we dropped her into the deep end of the pool here, so I should have done it again, so I do apologize. So on these, Angela, if we could, Matt Morrow, I know, was doing this one. If we could just make sure, we'll try at the end of the meeting, we'll talk, but we'll get his stuff and we'll try to get some site visits scheduled.
I did talk to him earlier today, and he said he would try and schedule the site visit.
Yeah, the snow's almost gone, so. Next hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. Public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Ray Tech Construction LLC regarding the construction of a single-family home and associated site grading with a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area, address 45 Overlook Drive, Lot 2, map 480, lot 921, DEP 199, 1065. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Chris Mossman from Burbage Engineering. Answer yes, we'll get it. I'm obviously going to ask for continuance too because we haven't had a site visit yet. She raised some concerns at my first hearing about the height of the foundation. So I visited the site, did a little more survey work, located the elevations of the wetlands flags. So what I ended up doing was raising the house 2 feet. It matches the foundation of the house adjacent to it. I now have a foundation drain that extends towards the wetlands. I put a spot where it daylights furthest away from the wetlands line. So I have silt fence that kind of surrounds the area where we're going to take trees and stump, and I have silt fence that extends down around that foundation.
Is this foundation drain listed with that red line?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's, okay. And it daylights down
towards the wetlands.
down at the wetlands.
There's also a question about I did get a copy of the letter where Chuck Kieran flagged the wetlands, and what methods he used to do it, what he saw. So I've included that in this little packet as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
I got a quick question, Dan.
Yeah.
How far is that drain from A4, Chris, do you know offhand?
Scale there, so it's a 40 scale. I'm going to say that it's probably about 10 feet.
You said that was a foundation drain.
Just a foundation drain, yeah.
Okay.
4-inch pipe running out from the pipe, so it'll just be dewatering the basement.
Okay.
So there's no way to tie a sump into that, right? Not the homeowner can't.
No, this would be on the outside of the foundation.
Yeah, okay, good.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Anybody on the public like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third time. All right, I'm going to leave the public hearing opened. We will continue this so we can have a site walk as we talked at the last meeting.
Sure.
And again, we'll have Angela try to put our groups together and she make sure you have his information.
I'll get you.
Okay.
Yep, and we'll try to get that scheduled before our next meeting.
Thanks, folks.
Appreciate it. All right, our next continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended to be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by USA Auto Sales regarding the site grading for a used automobile staging area within a riverfront and the associated 100-foot floodplain address 392 Central Street, map 483, Lot 6 and Lot 6A. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Yes.
Can you just go to the front?
Good evening, my name is Anthony Cleves, I'm with Winnibbing and Associates. Here on behalf of USA Auto Sales. Last meeting, Brian Melissy from our office was here. He couldn't make it tonight, so I'm filling in for him. And so as I understand, some of the items outstanding from the last meeting were do a site walk, to go to the site, and then also, I believe discussion was had that there was an area of wetlands that weren't shown on the plan previously, behind the home, 18 Albert Drive, Judy Jordan, in this area here. So we did have our wetland scientists go out and hang some flags. We went and located those flags, and so we have a delineation kind of out in here, right between is an existing gravelled area here and a fence line of the abutters. So this is a little pocket of wetlands here that kind of extends around and then continues around the property. So we did show that. I believe, as it was discussed last time, the thought was it wasn't going to really impact our project in a sense as we're utilizing the existing gravel area and actually restoring existing gravel areas with loam and seed and getting some grass back. And that's, I believe it was explained last time, these hatched areas are areas that are existing gravel now, that taking that out, loaming and seeding it and restoring. And this was another area here, which is close to that wetland, but the intent is to restore that. So the thought was it wasn't going to change the nature of the project, but good to show so that we have on record there's a wetland system here and there's a buffer zone associated with that.
Where's the buffer zone line? It's just hard to see it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, there's 1,000 lines on here, right here.
Okay.
Right in there. So, project, as was mentioned before, gonna utilize existing gravel area, put down some crushed concrete, for their project. Regrading some driveways, access in here, make it better access, and really start to restore some of the areas along the edge. Since they bought the property, they've done already a lot of cleaning up. This was I think a contractor's yard to some degree. And so they've already spent a lot of money, dumpsters with trash and everything to start, cleaning it up, and will continue to do so and improve the property. I'm not sure if anyone was able to make the site walk, but other things that have come up since the last meeting is the project was before the planning board. And they closed their hearing and issued an approval for the project, conditioned upon satisfying DPW concerns, which is a standard condition for them. The one item I just wanted to mention to you guys so you're aware, DPW was requesting to put in an infiltration system to pick up some of the impervious surface that's up here, out of the 200-foot riparian zone, out of the buffer zone. But they identified that as, geez, it'd be great if we could get some infiltration from some of that existing impervious surface around the building. So we're going to be looking at putting in an underground infiltration system up in here or in this area here to try and infiltrate some of that impervious surface. The next step for us on that is we're going to do some test bits to see what the soils are. So that's in the works. But they did close the hearing, and we're just going to follow up with a revised plan to keep the DPW happy. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Really shouldn't change anything that we're doing down in here, but assuming we can ultimately get an approval from the Conservation Commission, absolutely follow up with a copy for the file of whatever this turns into with the infiltration system. That was the update.
Questions, comments?
The only comment I would have is just I'd like to see the area, but the buffer zone, the wetland, and the riverfront. Before I vote on it.
So you guys haven't had a chance to get
No,
out?
because the snow hit right after the meeting.
Yeah.
So.
No, after the last meeting, we tried to get scheduled within a couple days, and I couldn't do it, so.
Yeah.
And then the snow flew, so. We definitely want to see this site. I know a few of us on the board would like to see the site without snow on it,
Yeah.
especially down in that, parking area and
Sure,
what's
yeah.
under our jurisdiction, especially with
Yeah.
kind of added the new wetland that wasn't on the
Yeah.
last plan, so. So overall, I don't think I had any major concerns at this plan or even the last one. I think we just want to see the
Yeah.
site,
Yeah.
because there was some neighbor issues, especially in the
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
as well, so.
Yeah, I think the intent was to try and improve what's already existing there and really restore a lot of this stuff. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's, I understand the need for the sidewalk, again, just to impress upon you. He has been doing a lot of cleaning up, probably not gonna do any more until we're sure that we're gonna be able to keep going forward, so
Right.
I'd like to keep going, so the sooner, hopefully, the weather holds up and we can go through this process. But if there is anything else that the commission can think of that we can hopefully discuss tonight, that would be great. So hopefully, if the site walk goes well, hopefully we can wrap this up.
Wrap it up in a couple of weeks.
A couple. The infiltration that you just mentioned,
Yep.
that's for the parking lot?
Yeah, for the existing paved parking lot up in here.
You plan on pre-treating that before you infiltrate?
Yeah, so we'll end up having to do probably, I haven't gone to the design yet, but yeah, the intent's gonna have to
Okay.
be, whether it's gonna be an isolated row as part of the underground filtration system, which I think North Tarp has it at like 67% removal, deep sump-footed catch basins, swales. I haven't worked it out, but absolutely.
Okay.
That would need to be part of that for that system to survive.
Thanks. And then the other question too, now that I see the additional wetland delineation,
Yep.
what was shown before, was that actually
Nothing.
delineated or is that?
No,
No.
So that area had been, hadn't been flagged originally, I think.
No, I'm sorry, let me just clarify. In terms of the other resource areas, I don't see any flagging or anything that was done for the stream.
For along the
Like,
brook.
how is the mean annual high water line determined? And
So it was based upon, basically bottom of bank, kind of the break and slope there.
was that flagged out there at all?
I don't know if flags are there, probably just field located based on observation.
Okay, I would suggest you try to do that too. I know when I look at the other areas, I'm gonna wanna look at that. Sometimes we're not always on the same page in terms of where the mean annual is. And there's no BBW associated with that, it's just a,
Not that anything was delineated. I don't know how thorough that was looked at. At the time, what I was gonna get into was, this was done in January of last year, I think it was. So I think that's probably why this was probably not easily identifiable at the time, probably due to the cover there. And then over here, probably pretty obvious, slope down, that bottom of bank, that probably the mean annual high water and BBW is probably gonna be very, very similar. And it wasn't changing the nature of our project, so we didn't overly pursue that area as we're actually restoring or taking away development as opposed to adding. So, you know, we can look at that further if that's needed to do that. But again, it didn't. If this line changes a foot or two, our intent is still the same, to get rid of this gravel that's around here, whether this is a foot or two one way or the other, and put back the grass. But if you want us to go and hang some flags for the mean annual high water, we can do that if you feel that's necessary.
okay, and then my last question too is just in terms of, I know you said there was some cleaning up of the area. Was there any other earthwork done recently, or has it just been?
No, nothing aware of, no moving of dirt or anything. No, it was mostly, there was some storage trailers here, got rid of that, and just the contractor's debris, trash. I think you had some dumpsters, you filled dumpsters with just trash and debris.
Oh, you had a question?
Yeah, I can't really see the buffer zone on this delineated wetlands from here. I'm just curious, Anthony, what's the number of cars
That are in it?
that are in that buffer zone? Potential cars.
Yeah, my fault, I probably should have done this. I didn't do good in kindergarten with tracing, so I apologize for that.
Shame on you.
I know, couldn't stay in the lines either, but I got by. Yeah, so 2021. So this is it is an area that had a lot of contractors debris out in here too. That's been cleaned, and I'm going to continue to. This area here is all gravel. The intent is to restore that to loam and seed as well, and really bring that development kind of restoring buffer zone as well.
Did you get a question?
Just one comment, when in here, if we could get that flag, because what happens is once this gets approved, if an abutter wants to use, you know, that technically if this is an approved delineation, then an abutter can use that same delineation. So if we don't have it right for this project, it potentially could affect. I don't know what else is back there. I think there's a storage thing. I don't know what can be done out there remaining, but I just wouldn't want to be, I don't want to lock, you know, say that this is inaccurate. Was there a report done for that? Is there like whoever did the evaluated this area, did they do it? Usually they fill like a report on what they found.
I don't know that we have a report on that section for the mean annual high water.
Well, just in general, yeah, when the resource areas.
They usually get like a one-page thing that says,
Yeah, you know, the
break and
method they
slope.
used and.
Break and slope. I
Yeah.
think this one's gonna be pretty
Yeah.
easy to define. But no, I don't have one.
And the parking area out back is currently gravel, it's gonna stay gravel?
So it's gonna be crushed concrete.
Crushed concrete, that's right, I apologize, I remember.
Are you- I'm done. Do you have any designated snow removal areas, or where do you envision that?
Yeah, I think there was gonna be a different plan. Do you know, remember offhand?
On this side.
It was gonna be up on,
Yeah, look at
up in here, I
Yes,
thought, right?
yeah.
Yeah, up in this area here. There's some area here that you can see there's no parking spaces shown, like up and along here. So up along these edges here was what the intent was, keep it away from that side. We showed that, it's on one of the plans, we can show it for conservation, I mean, for planning board. So it is in the plan set that was submitted. But yeah, that was the intent, is to have it up on this side of the lot, to keep it away from the brook and things like that. Sorry, I don't have that with me.
Is that something you'd want on the plan?
We can add that on there.
Okay, so,
If it's not already on there, because I mean, I have the right sheet, but
okay,
we can.
have that noted on the plan. I think that's a good spot for it, away from the
Yeah, keep it out of
useless
resource
areas,
areas.
yeah.
And I got one more.
Sure.
The last, I don't know if we've received a revised set from your office or not, but the initial filing we got showed a crushed stone detail rather than the concrete. And I think when Brian was in here at our last meeting, I asked if you could just get us a spec on that.
I know I have, we did receive this afternoon a gradation from the concrete supplier. Which I think we have. It was from Aggregate Concrete. Two copies of the same.
Being from Aggregate Industries, I'm assuming it's new concrete that they crushed from leftover
I think so.
concrete.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the source is. Literally, that was just forwarded to us,
Okay.
so I don't know. That would be us, please.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this? Is this an NOI? Yes. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third and final. All right. At this point, we're definitely going to leave the public hearing open. And I know a lot of members would like to do a site walk, so we'll have Angela make sure that, and hopefully the snow's gone before our next meeting, we'll try to get out there as a
Yeah,
group.
so actually, I was out there yesterday. Pretty much all the snow cover is gone, so it's, I think with the upcoming weather pattern.
I would think by early next week, it'll definitely, most of it will be gone, so we can try to schedule that, so.
So if I can, if you don't mind, just kind of make sure I have my marching
Go ahead.
orders. So, site walk, obviously, and then show snow stored on the plan. Just kind of make sure we note that we have pre-treatment for our underground filtration system. Hang some flags, hopefully before the site walk, for the mean annual high water. and then we can locate those and put them on a plan. I'm not sure what the timing of the sidewalk will be, but I don't know if it's worth, if we can hold off on locating the flags in case the commission wants to move them. Or we can locate them and then just move them 5, 10 feet, whatever, 2 feet if need be, whatever, we can see how that goes either way. I think that was all I had. Did I miss anything that we can think of? The biggest thing was taking a look at the site, just to.
Yeah. I personally would like to see the flags, and if we need to move them, if there's an issue.
Well, I said,
while
I think we
we're
can try and hang them,
there. Right,
but instead of trying to get a field crew out there to locate them and put them on a plan before the sidewalk, I wonder if it's better off try and do it after the sidewalk in case you may want to shift the flag, and we can get that location and put that on the plan. Either way, it doesn't matter, I think we can make it work either way. But the important thing is to have them hung before you go.
I personally have no problem putting them out there, and if we move them and then locate them on the plan before the next meeting.
Any
think
idea
that's-
of when the sidewalk may happen? Just try and make sure we get out there.
I know, what's today? Today, I would definitely say within the next week,
Okay.
you know?
Do you guys sometimes go on the weekends?
We do,
Alright,
we do, so,
so we'll be letting us know when, so we can
yeah, we'll get these.
make sure we try.
We have a lot of them, so we're definitely gonna have to try to fit them in
Yeah,
between
okay.
now and 2
Okay.
weeks, so.
Yeah.
Trying to push it as late as possible to make sure that the snows, but I
Yeah.
think a site like this, the majority of it is
I mean,
is
the biggest
pretty
thing, I
much
just want to make
gone.
sure that we can get the flags out there for you, so you're not wasting a trip.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll get in touch with you ASAP and make sure that you have a timeline.
Yeah, and if you're not gonna locate them in advance, and I don't have an issue with that, but if you at least give us a field sketch or something, or just sketch them on your plan, here's where they roughly are, so
Yeah.
we.
And I think ideally,
Road there.
we would like to be on the sidewalk with you,
Right.
and then we can, go out there and walk it with you too,
Right.
if we can. Okay.
All right, so we'll continue it to the April 10th meeting, and we'll definitely get it scheduled, site walk before then. And we'll make sure that your office, whether it's you or someone else,
Brian, yeah.
will be notified so you guys can be there and answer questions. So,
Great.
all right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, there will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by 375 Harvard Realty LLC regarding the proposed installation of a sewer line, stormwater management structure, and site paving, wetland resource area alteration. Replication is proposed, address 375 Harvard Street, map 370, lot 19. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
Yes. Again, for the record, my name is Anthony Cleese from Whitman and Bingham Associates, here on behalf of 375 Harvard Realty. And so, if I can, I'll go through, just start with some of the items that were discussed last time, and pick it up from there. I know one of the big things was site walk. And same situation, we got pounded with snow, and so that was difficult to do. Also, we didn't have a chance to hang the flags. That was one of the requests, is to have the wetland flags hung around this area before the site walk. So, I understand that didn't happen, so kind of fully expected to have a continuance tonight, but still thought it was worth coming and have any more discussions on any other items that may come up. So sidewalk was a big one, didn't get a chance to do that. Also haven't applied to wetlands, so we'll do that as well before then. Some of the things that came up was talking about getting rid of foreign debris in the wetlands and things like that. That was something, I think the site walk was a prime thing, so we can really identify that. So I haven't forgotten about that, and that's why the site walk's gonna really help identify what needs to be done in that fashion. Comment was made about trying to enlarge the top of the stormwater basin to 10 feet, so it's 6 now. Did take a look at that. I think we can do that. It just basically shifts everything into the area we're hoping to try and, use, as some of the paved area, it goes about 4 feet. So I think that's an easy accommodation to do that. And I don't expect any issue with that. Adding a notation to the operation maintenance plan to cover specifics as it pertains to a site like this. We have contractors' storage bins of materials to make sure that's specifically covered, as that's kind of not a norm on all standard projects. So we'll do that. And so those are some of the main comments that I jotted down from before. Haven't updated the plan or anything yet because I want to do the site walk to see if there's other things we need to change, try and do it all together. The other thing that had come through since the last meeting was just a few days ago or so, is DEP was able to issue a file number, and they had some comments. Don't know if anyone had a chance to see them. They literally just came through. I can go through a few of them if you'd like to kind of bring them up to start the discussion. Don't expect it to have a resolution necessarily because we're going to continue anyways, but I'd be happy to go through them if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like, I haven't had a chance, so
Sure.
I think now's a good time to.
I'll try and read them somewhat verbatim. I don't know if I copied them down correctly, but the applicant should request and receive certificates of compliance for any previous orders of conditions for this property prior to the commencement of work. Absolutely makes sense. And actually today, I don't have to submit them, but did the certificate of compliance form, had a letter, so whatever the commission feels, hopefully if we get into this process with an order of conditions, can have a certificate of compliance for the old order that expired, executed at the same time, whatever the commission would like, but we prepared those documents, those are ready to go. A narrative should be provided for the proposed restoration/replication work, construction sequence, size of transplants, composition of seed mix, timing of plantings, inspection, monitoring, etc. And so, this was the wetland replication plan that we had done before. And so, just this week, I added this construction sequence to the plans. Again, don't expect you guys to review it right now and comment on it, but you're not going to be able to read that for sure. So I blew that up.
We're supposed to be able to read this.
So this one you can read.
Oh,
To make it easy, again, I don't expect you to read it right now and comment on it, but I figured I would bring it with me so you had it.
Sure, I know this one.
So we added that to the plan. I have 11 by 17s of this plan as well, same
Okay.
thing. I can't read it, but good, if you guys can, more power to you. But that's why I blew it up on the 8.5 by 11. Again, don't expect you to review it and comment on it right now, but just wanted to make that as part of the addressing of the DEP comment. Next comment they had was that since the stormwater basin will be used for infiltration, it should not be used as a sedimentation basin during construction. That's fine, and that's if it's if that's something that we need to condition, absolutely. I don't expect there to be a great need for a sedimentation basin during construction. A lot of the work has kind of already been done, a lot of grading is done. It's a major part of the work to move forward and really creating the basin. That I don't expect that to be an issue. It appears that the stormwater basin is located less than 50 feet from the wetland border and therefore does not meet the design criteria for infiltration basins contained in Volume 2, Chapter 2 of the Stormwater Handbook. And so that's what that comment is in relation to. The wetlands that was delineated in 2005 here, 50 feet from that probably put you, well, from this line about here, but from this line, it really takes over the entire basin. So our understanding of some of those, and it actually mentions it in there, you have design guidelines and recommendations, and that's it actually says, this table recommends site criteria for infiltration basins. So not that it's a hard, fast, you need to do this, but they're good recommendations to make sure that an infiltration practice is sustainable. You're not going to have groundwater issues, so that's why it's in there. And so, yes, we're not 50 feet from that. It wasn't 50 feet from those wetlands back when this was approved in 2005. But I think some of the things to consider for this particular project is that a lot of the reason the wetlands are as they were in 2005, as you can see, we had and we talked about before, the septic system, leach area here, and leach area here, that has really fed and created the wetland consideration up in this area. The historical wetland line is more, it's more towards the property line. So this was a wetland delineation that came across in our old files in the late 90s, 97 I think it was. And that's in orange. So at that time, this was the wetlands then. And then as the septic system probably presumably continued to fail, and you get, more leachate coming out, it expanded to what was approved back in 2005. And so again, in the plan from 2005, they have it here. That's where the basin always was shown, was down in here. The updates I made to that basin was the slopes were 2-to-1, and which is okay at that time. Today's standards, you want more of a 3-to-1 slope, so it's more stable. So we increased the slopes to 3-to-1 and things like that. So that was a comment that the DEP had brought up, and that was kind of the thought process in this one, is that yes, we're within 50 feet from some of this exacerbated wetland, but it really was fed from the septic system, which is going to go away by tying in a new sewer. So something for the commission to consider. And then the last comment they had was that additional information is necessary to demonstrate that the bottom of the eastern end of the stormwater basin will have at least 2-foot separation to annual high groundwater. And so we had some old testing in this section here. So what the comment was referring to was up in this corner there. Completely agree, and I think that actually falls in line with the previous comment about the 50-foot separation to the water. Because the important thing is that you're away from the groundwater table. And there was already a note on our plans calling that out. We identified that as well during the design. And so we had had note F on the original plans. A confirmatory test pit should be done in the stormwater basin area to verify groundwater depth. So we've always agreed with that, and definitely should be done. We didn't go ahead and do that before preparation of plans, I think just because of the nature of the project. Didn't want to start digging out there, so. But completely agree with that comment as well, and so fully planned on doing that. So those are the comments from DEP, so I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. And so those are the main updates. So I can understand, didn't have a site walk. So same thing, fully anticipated continuation tonight. If you want to talk about anything tonight, be happy to talk about it. If you want to wait till after the site walk and discuss it for the next meeting, that's fine too, whatever the commission wishes.
Comments, questions at this time from the commission?
Just,
Yes, sir.
does that test pit need to be done now? I mean, is that something that should be done? Is it it could affect the plan?
It could affect the design. So there's been many times where, as part of a condition of approval, we do that, and that's when you're out there doing construction, you dig it. Oh, we got a problem. Let's go back to the commission, let them know what happened. Other times we've done it before, and then, made adjustments beforehand. Either way, we've done it both ways. Again, I think whatever the commission prefers, we'll be happy to try to accommodate you.
Other questions, comments? All right. I am going to open up to the audience. I do want to state that obviously the commission has not been out there to look at it. I think a couple of us have driven by, me included. Did not enter the property. I did drive up and down around the property. But this is definitely going to entail a thorough site visit along with the engineers and whatever else. So, anybody else on the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Carol Newell. I live at 39 White Street. I'm a direct abutter to this project. First of all, I would like to thank Mayor Mazzarella for his interest in this proposed project. He sent me a very nice letter. I would also like to thank the President of the City Council, Rick Marchand. He's been helping me as an abutter. He went out of his way to ensure that the owners of 375 Harvard Street would be good neighbors. I was living in my home at 39 White Street in the 1970s. In the 1970s, the land at Harvard Street was filled with trees. I saw the trees cut and the foundation poured for the big industrial building. In 2004, the Bigelow brothers bought that industrial building for $800,000. In January of 2006, the City Council granted the Bigelow brothers a permit for mixed use, and this mixed use is for industrial and retail. There's an order of conditions for this permit. The Bigelow brothers must comply with these conditions to maintain their permit. The back entrance must have what they call a breakaway gate, unimpeded access. It must be open for emergency vehicles, such as fire trucks and police cruisers. Councilor Marchand has been working on this for me, and as a result of his efforts, in addition to the warm weather, the snow now has been removed from the gate. I would like the Bigelow brothers to be good neighbors. I would like them to comply with the order of conditions of the special permit. The Bigelow brothers have dumped dirt and debris in the wetlands. I have 2 photos of the dirt and debris that was in their back parking lot. And I will give these to you after I finish speaking. Some of this is hazardous waste. It's possible that this has been dumped into the wetlands. So would the commissioners kindly look for this debris when you do your site walk? You, as the Conservation Commission, strive to preserve and protect the wildlife. Please, if you would picture yourselves sitting at your dining room table and someone comes in and dumps a load of dirt on you that is so big that it crushes you and covers your whole house, you would suffocate and die. These little creatures in the wetlands are eating at their dining room tables. This is where they eat just to survive. These little creatures are suffering and dying in the dirt the Bigelows dumped on them in the wetlands. Mr. Colombo, at the last meeting, you said the dirt should be removed. For the preservation of the wetlands, this dirt really must be removed.
I agree.
The owners of 375 Harvard Street appear to have total disregard for the wetlands. They have destroyed both the vegetation and the wildlife. The Bigelows hired a tractor to mow the wetlands on their property. And this is a photograph of the tractor mowing the wetlands, which I will give to you. You, as the Conservation Commission, need to please take this disregard for the vegetation and wildlife into consideration. I trust that you will think very carefully about this disregard and that your decision on the wetlands project will be one that will be beneficial to the wildlife and the vegetation. The dirt and debris must be removed from the wetlands. This removal must be done before the Bigelow brothers are allowed to make any changes to their property. I have a few questions, Mr. Cleaves, about your plan.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where will the detention basin be? Will it be beyond the gate, beyond the opening of where the corner of White Street and Ridgewood Drive go together where there's a
Yes.
gate?
Yeah, so if you remember the plan from 15 years ago or so, same location. So the gate to that emergency access, which is right opposite Ridgewood Drive,
Yeah,
it's beyond that.
it's beyond that. It's closer to the railroad track.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, now you said there was a wet meadow that you would use for ingress and egress to do this project. Is this wet meadow further up on White Street, so it's gonna be across the street from my house on 39 White Street?
No, we're not planning on doing anything up in here.
That's what I need to know.
No.
Yes, all right, thank you very much. At the last meeting, you said that Harvard Realty would like to, at one point, put in additional parking. And I would just like, yes, it's recorded, I read it, I watched it on YouTube. I just would like to request in the future, if you do put in some additional parking, that it would please not be across the street from where the abutters are, but it would be on the Harvard Street side. And I know this is something that will probably happen in the far distant future, but I would just like to say that we are entitled as abutters to the quiet enjoyment of our homes. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to speak on this issue.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this notice of intent? Yes, ma'am?
I just have a question. The new work that's being done right beside the property on the left side, if you're looking at it, that's all you guys?
From which vantage
It,
point?
it just was grass, it's across the street from the wall.
Looking at Harvard Street, it's to the left or the right of the building?
To the left.
If you're
Okay.
standing in White Street looking
No,
at the
look
building?
on Harvard Street.
Looking at the building, it's all new, all being torn out right there.
You mean up on the Harvard Street side?
On Harvard,
Yes.
if you're looking at the building from the Harvard Street, you're talking
Yes,
to the left
it's on
side of the
Harvard.
building.
So as you come around
That land they
the
filled
side
in.
of the
Right.
building here, closer to Harvard Street or back down?
It's on Harvard Street, it's right beside the
Oh,
property.
the lot that's over here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's separate from this.
Is it you guys though, is it still his?
I believe it's the same property owners. Yeah,
Okay.
that was, they had, that lot got filled in, I don't know,
Couple of years
a couple of years ago. Came before the commission for a permit for that too, to fill that in. There were wetlands on the downhill side of that were delineated, and they, I don't know if you remember that project or not.
I do.
But yeah, they leveled that off of Harvard Street, they created that level plateau.
Okay,
That's
now-
separate from this, but I believe it's
Okay.
the same property owners.
Now, if I look out my front door, I can now see a huge clearing right behind the river that's supposed to be running there. If you're on the highway, you can see it right behind the tracks. It's all cleared out now, so it's wide open.
That's,
Yes,
not
it's a
theirs.
budding,
That's
that's
not
what I'm
theirs.
asking.
No, that's the power lines.
Yeah, we haven't, if I
That's all
I'm
the power
understanding
lines.
correctly,
I went
along
over
the
that
highway,
yesterday.
power lines also the other side of the brook. That's off our property completely.
Okay, all right.
So I'm not aware of that being any part of this project.
Okay, that's
Yep.
So when you filled in, excuse me, when you filled in that, where you leveled it off, didn't you fill in wetlands there when you did that?
Nope.
You said you got a permit, but that was
Yeah.
all lower water, there was water there,
It used
but
to
it
be.
wasn't, there used to be.
In the back, yep.
Yeah.
So we had delineated the wetlands in the back, and we designed that such that we did not fill wetlands. The slope came down
Okay.
near the wetlands, but did not fill them. The
Yeah.
wetlands did not go all the way to Harvard Street. In some portions, it did up near the road,
Yeah, right
But
by the
did-
railroad tracks,
where-
it was wet all the way
where
under
there's the
ridge.
culvert that goes underneath Harvard Street, but we weren't doing anything near there. It was roughly, there's a culvert here, the fill area was over here, the wetlands come in and around that side, so we didn't propose to fill any wetlands on that side. No.
Are they still
I-
proposing to clean up everything in that back
I
area?
can't, I cannot remember who the property owner, I was on the commission when we did issue that. They did not fill in any wetlands. I know it was delineated, and everything, from my knowledge, was done as per the plan and the permit. They came in front of us just to fill in that area. I did drive by there, I noticed it was filled and some concrete blocks are up there and
Yeah,
some
Jersey
other
Barrier,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But there was no wetland filling. I don't remember all the specifics, that was a couple years ago. But from everything that I remember and what I saw, everything was done on that project as per their plans. So,
Now, on this, what we're talking about now, all that debris, well, it's not debris, it's construction equipment and stuff. It's like right out my living room window. right? I mean,
They promised trees too.
they promised a barrier there, so I didn't see any of that. This was in one of their previous projects. Never was a barrier put up at all. I mean, it's like open to us. And I told you before, I mean, they've just dropped things. They have this tubing that now is running off the embankment almost into the road because it just keeps getting piled higher and higher, and it's a very big eyesore for somebody like at our house directly, because ours is
Especially
the
in
only one
winter
that is. Ours and 51 White Street is the same. When he comes out his door, he's got the same view. It's horrible, horrible. You know,
To anyone driving down that street.
yeah, I mean, you can't miss
Complain
it if
about
you
it.
drive it down the street. It's like how you would expect neighbors to live with that is beyond me.
Can we get your name and address, please?
Sure, Linda Shoemaker, 301 Ridgewood Drive. And we actually abut White Street and Ridgewood.
Okay.
So we're right on the corner.
In the corner
Right in front of
lot.
that.
Correct, the corner lot of Ridgewood Way?
Yeah, right on the corner lot.
Corner lot right there.
Which one?
And like I said, that whole view is
I heard
just
they
so
haven't walked the
exposed
property
to
yet,
us.
so there's no,
And my son lives in the house
I know.
across from us on
Oh,
White
okay.
Street. So he bought that house 3 years ago, and it's the same thing. If he goes out in his front yard, that's all he sees. It's like construction. And it's not like it's neat piles of things or, you know what I mean? It's just haphazard all over the place. I often wondered if we got a huge storm, you know, I mean, we were lucky because when we got the snowstorms in the Northeast, the snow fell. Those things, if they ever take flight, we're gone. And I mean, they're tubing, you know, it's huge, huge tubing.
Pipes.
PVC.
And if children get into the site, there's a lot of children on our street, somebody could be seriously hurt there. Small children, what a playground. Climb through all those tubings, they roll over. I mean, I think it's an endangerment as well for the neighborhood. You know, I think that has to be cleaned up.
Yes, sir.
My only question, I brought it up at the last meeting about all the power washing going on.
Yes.
Has that ever been, well,
Addressed.
you actually haven't walked it yet
We
either,
have
so,
not, we
okay.
have not really addressed anything.
Yeah, no,
since the
I
last
just,
meeting,
you did
but
say
that
you
is on
did.
our notes to
Okay.
review.
They were doing it today,
Yeah,
so they're
I mean, it's
still,
still over that drain. I have pictures of the 18-wheelers, they were power washing today, so. I think Elizabeth, was it you were there yesterday, and she saw what I was talking about. It's all, anything they wash is going into the wetland, so.
Well,
That's a concern.
Well, we do need to look at it.
Yeah, no, I
We're
understand that.
not exactly sure,
Right.
yeah.
So you saw the view of it as well, because you came down White
Yeah.
Street. So you see what that encounters as well.
But they gotta do the walkthrough first.
Yeah, we're gonna
Right.
do the walk, and
Alright.
see a lot of, well, we're probably not gonna do well with it. but-
Yeah, I know.
Can I ask when those pictures were taken?
A while ago, when all of this debris was in there, and they moved or buried all of this debris, and I suspect that this is what was put, I'm gonna give them to you.
I'm
I
just trying to
suspect
get
it's
a
possible,
date.
possible that some of this, which is also some hazardous waste, was dumped into the wetlands.
Can you guesstimate when this particular picture was taken?
These were taken a while ago.
A while,
And
is it 5 years ago, 3 years
I
ago?
believe it was before the problem came with them putting things in the wetlands. But I have no proof, but this is what I believe.
Okay,
And it's possible that some of this hazardous waste is in there.
okay.
That looks like it goes over that way now.
Yeah. I remember the wet panels up top, you mentioned.
Up in the barn?
Yeah.
We'll make sure these get back to you, but we're gonna,
Oh, I have copies.
okay. You know, this project's kind of been ongoing for a while. It's been a while since I've been out there. I know some newer commission members, since I've been on, have been out there and noticed some of this debris. And that's really our focus, to kind of go out there and figure out where's the water going. That was a little bit of my concern when I did go out there, you know, where the drainage is and kind of down downstream, if you want to call it that. But all of that's going to get looked at during our site walk, along with, what's been filled, what we know, and things like that. So that there's a kind of a lot going on this site, and there's a lot of concern, so we definitely want to make sure it's done right, so that's why we've kind of been pushing this off.
The
on
abutters
site
really
walks.
appreciate all your
Yeah.
effort.
So, okay, I'm gonna keep those. This is some of the stuff you've seen.
That's
also,
exactly what I saw.
Okay, that's what I assumed. It was just filled in, Anthony, with a lot of, concrete, broken asphalt.
Snow,
This looks like it's snow.
dirty snow.
Yeah.
I think that was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
My guess is probably around the time of when we first had the project come through, is my guess, which was 2005.
I was on the
The
site,
site's much different than that now.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
on the site January of 2016, and there was a lot of debris then.
Yeah, so I think a site walk's gonna do the site more justice than
Yeah.
that picture.
Right. The reason I asked for it, just, I'm assuming this definitely looks old, because since I've been on the site, it looks much different.
There's parking
Those
spaces
Those were
here,
taken some time ago, yes.
Yeah.
but there's still debris,
Right,
just in
right,
different parts of the project.
right. So, okay.
Now, they own and manage that entire building? Because I know there's another business or two.
There's multiple businesses, there's multiple tenants in this building, so there's
But
a
they're-
property owner.
they're- Right.
There's a property
The
owner
tenants
that
of the
that owns the property, and then you
Okay.
have tenants basically that rent the space.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Where do these, I guess, this talk of trucks being, diesel vehicles being washed in front of the catch basin, where do those catch basins drain to currently?
So the stormwater system, the catch basins here, catch basin here, some roof drains may tie in, catch basin, drain manhole, and everything is piped out to the brook down in here.
So we really don't want them washing
No.
those vehicles with the fuel and all the,
Correct.
so.
It's actually,
Right,
it's
depending on what
DEP
the-
Is that something-
That's what
Yeah.
they're doing. And that's where, again, it's, we're gonna be adding a stormwater system too, so it's gonna be, like we talked before, water quality units, which can help trap oils and gases, to help kind of alleviate some of, anything beyond that of washing the trucks, but anything, because right now, the system is vintage. When the building was built, it was in the 70s, the building was.
Yes, that's
So,
correct.
so it's a quite old stormwater system, so trying to bring into some of today's stormwater components.
I will, I guess, ask, you're here kind of to get some more information before
Yeah.
the next meeting. And Brad, you probably know more than I, but from my previous experience outside the Conservation Commission, the DEP does not allow pressure washing of at least industrial vehicles and or large commercial vehicles on any property without a recycling system. So, if that's,
It goes beyond construction vehicles.
well, I know when you get into like car washes, I'm just telling you from my experience, I've actually installed 2 or 3 of these kind of recycling systems. You might want to mention that to the client, because it was mentioned last meeting and this meeting. That's something we can't see, but if that's going on, that is kind of the DEP regulation. I know that from experience, so. It needs to be a self-contained recycling unit, like they have at car washes, so mention that to your client if you could.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Yes?
Should we follow that up with a letter as well, just as a reminder? So that it's in writing?
Well,
I look at her because she's gonna write the letter.
Well, if I can,
Sure.
again, I think it gets back to the sidewalk. I think
Yeah,
the sidewalk's an
that's
important thing.
Right. This is just in the meantime, this will prevent
Yeah,
something.
yeah, but I mean, I think it's whatever you, the sidewalk's gonna be a very important part of this whole process, to make sure the commission feels comfortable, so.
See, my concern is it's Saturday, they were doing pickup trucks, and I got pictures of today with an 18-wheeler that they were power washing, so they're doing it now that the weather's getting nice, they're power washing constantly, so that is definitely, and I know it's going into that brook, so.
Can we get a cease order until they're out there?
Who is the client that's doing it?
The owner.
Is it
It sounds like
property
it's
owned?
a tenant. isn't it?
It's one of his
It's a
tenants.
tenant.
Yeah,
GBC.
GBC Construction.
They don't.
They don't own the
work.
property.
They don't want it,
work
they're
out
one
of
of the,
The property owners don't.
They run their
And then-
business out of the parking lot.
So it's actually. a
and then on the
tenant.
other side, there's Forever Landscape, they were washing their trucks today too, which that's the first time I've seen them do it, but GBC's always doing it constantly.
And that landscaping has fertilizers and things that are not supposed to be washed.
I think a letter is warranted, I just don't know to who yet, Larry.
Well, we have to go to the property owner, that's all we
Right,
have
right,
jurisdiction.
right.
If I may,
Sure.
we already have the central region involved with the
Correct.
enforcement on this. Why don't we just let them know that that's what the information that we received,
Okay.
and they'll probably want to follow up with the property owners themselves. They have better regulations in place that go beyond the
Correct.
WPA that can handle that kind
Right.
of stuff. So,
Right.
Thank you.
All right, any other commission members, any comments or questions? Anybody from the audience like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Chairman. I just wanted to Gail Feckley, I'm the counsel for Ward 1. Just want to reiterate what I stated last time at the last meeting. This complaint has been going on since basically I became a ward counselor. The DEP file had expired in 2015, and it's been on the, Marco Bengrazi actually got it on the agenda very shortly after I contacted him about it, and it's been on the agenda every single time. So I'm wondering why it took so long for the DEP to, I mean, I don't know if you can answer this question, but in your experience, why it takes them so long to assign another file number. And the other thing I wanted to mention again was that it seems as though the owners of this property are not good neighbors to the community. Only the concept, I don't know whether or not this project will be beneficial to that area and will solve some of the problems that the neighbors have been having. So that would be something for the commission to decide. But I do want to, again, support Ms. Newell's request that they not be given this permit until all of these issues have been solved. The other issue is the gate on White Street. It's very unsightly. I've gone by there recently. I know these pictures, and I have, via the council president, I've received some of these pictures. I can say by looking at them that it's, similar, there's a similar situation going on, especially with the gate and the debris in the back of the gate. So I've heard from several of the neighbors over my, course of being a ward counselor, have been very frustrated that doors have not been opened. The building inspector seems to have thought that that gate was acceptable. Certainly it's not. But I do want to reinstate that Marco Bengrazi did, everything he could, I guess, as far as moving the DEP into a place now where we have a file number. But if you could just explain to us why it would take so long for the DEP to issue another file number, I'd appreciate that.
I can't answer why it took them so long to issue another file number. I will tell you the history that I know of since I've been on the commission for the last 7 years is this did come to us as and Larry, how did we get to know about this originally? I know it's kind of been ongoing even
Yeah.
since you've been on the commission, but.
There were reports of dumping of
Right.
construction
Yeah, Marco's
debris,
attention. Yes.
Right.
and that's sort of what brought it to our attention, so we had notified DEP. I think the reason that the filing took so long is because of the history of the site. They just
Right.
wanted to do a thorough job reviewing the project, not, leaving anything,
We did start trying to work with the property owner, and they had different engineers come in and do some stuff, asking for extensions. Obviously it's construction season, so, they come in front of us till November, and there's not much you can do in the summer, winter time, so. Once we kind of knew that this was going to be an ongoing project, that's then when we really brought it to the central region and kind of let them, know that this is kind of going on. So it's a little bit of history of just kind of ongoing issues. There was some, like I said, at first it was, the property owner was trying to work with us, and then that kind of stopped. So we kind of took it to the next level, and that's kind of where we stand. So it's a little bit of everybody's fault, and it's just, different things, and the extension permits were, it did finally run out, but that kind of, from my knowledge of it, is kind of what happened. Just kind of kept, not really getting pushed down the road, but it kind of kept, we were trying to be, not bringing the DEP, let's work as a commission in a city, and that kind of fell apart, and then DEP got involved, and that's kind of where we're at, so.
So it sounds like we might be on the right path, and I think that obviously a site walk is going to do a lot. It's going to educate you quite a bit.
As the chairman of this commission, I will say that this has been on our agenda for a while,
Mhm.
and this has been moved as of last May or June. It got pushed kind of to the top of the agenda, as they say. And now it's just a matter of getting out there and getting the right things looked at, engineers involved to get plans, figure out what was there, pictures like this, what's underneath that parking lot. There's a lot of stuff we're trying to gather so we can make sure we do this correct. So, but I will say that this is a very important project to us, as it is everybody in this room, as we can see. All we can do is do the best we can, and we definitely want to do a site walk as a group and have an engineer on staff and spend some time and do it right. So I will say that. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a time limit by which the state requires this project to be done and the wetlands restored?
I guess my short answer is no. As soon as
It
possible.
can go on indefinitely?
Well, no, as soon as possible. Basically, we need to find out where the wetlands are. Have wetlands been filled? What can we do? Sometimes when you fill the wetlands, sometimes you can't undo what they've done. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to fix it, and let's make sure it doesn't happen and continue on. We do have a cease and desist on doing anything with the wetlands here. So if anything's dumped into wetlands and changed at this point, there's enforcement order out there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I may just jump in. If the commission finds that there's a history of fill that needs to be restored, as the plans have indicated so far, we can absolutely set time constraints on that. So there is no unlimited time frame that the property owner has to do that. It is a violation under the regulations. It is enforceable, and we can set time frames for that. I don't think it's something that people want to see sitting there in perpetuity. We want it to get resolved. So it's something that we can condition in the permit.
We'll be setting that time limit, basically.
Can you show me on that site plan where the wetlands are that were filled in, or do you not know?
So this line here was the line from 2005. And so we did an as-built plan, which the commission requested. You can see it better on there. Here.
I don't remember how many acres it was. Was it a little over? Didn't you have a number? I'm sure it was close to 2, but that's not really near this. Yeah, I was trying to remember the letter from. Was it?
All of that was filled in?
No, that's the wetland line.
Oh, okay.
And so areas that were filled in here and here, which this was part of the approved plan before. So that was an approved wetland plan.
So now you're going to be restoring that?
No, that wasn't the intent. No. The intent is to still have a driveway that goes through there, as was approved back in 2005. I think one of the bigger concerns is that, from what I understand, there was other foreign debris that made its way into wetlands as well, whether it be construction related or just trash or whatnot, that identified as important to remove. So this is the plan that was approved back in 2005 or so. Again, so there's the area that was going to be filled to make this driveway come through. And so that's still the intent, is to have that connection between the two areas of the project, so you can have around the building access.
But did the replication ever take place, or just the fill?
No, just the fill.
Okay.
The basin didn't go in, the sewer didn't go in, the drainage didn't go in, so the building addition, we proposed a building addition, that thing, we had proposed parking expansion, none of that took place. Basically, it was, this connection got created, and then they kind of stopped. So I think at this point, all of those plans of building addition, added parking, things like that, and as you can see on this plan, we had a building expansion approved here, more parking here, more parking, as Ms. Newell had mentioned, right along White Street, more parking here. None of that work was done, and that's not the intent at this phase. At this phase, the intent is to try and satisfy some of the issues that have been identified with the way the site is today, not to go back and try and build an addition and things like that. If at one point they want to do that, we have to come back in with a whole new filing. These are gone. It's get that stormwater system in that was always intended to do, and kind of make sure that the site is something that is not doing something the commission does not want to have. So kind of really scaled back from what was approved. It's more kind of trying to remediate what's been done and kind of hopefully close this out and get back to what the commission was hoping to have approved back 10, 15 years ago. So the bulk of the work now is stormwater system, stormwater basin, water quality units, catch basins, and then also getting a sewer line in so we can get rid of the failing septic system.
And what about
And
the
the replication
wetlands?
area.
Are the wetlands gonna be restored?
We're gonna be doing a replication area.
That's what I wanna know.
Yep. And so we actually identified a different area from what was approved before. Again, as we kind of further evaluate, I believe the area before was kind of up in here, which is typical. You put it adjacent to the area that you're filling. But again, I think we feel as though these wetlands are kind of really based upon the septic system. So if you really want to create wetlands that are going to be long lasting, we want to do it down closer to the really historic wetland area. Again, great area to walk during the site walk. You can take a look at that. But yes, absolutely, the intent is to replicate wetland area. We had almost 3,000 square feet of added wetland area to put back in there with various plantings and whatnot, and some grading to make sure that gets graded down a little bit so it's closer to that wetland elevation.
Now, I believe I heard you say at the last meeting that you were restoring the wetlands at a ratio of 1.3 to 1 of what was there before. Is that correct?
I don't remember what it was. We're filling about 2,600 square feet and replicating 28 to 2,800. So about
So
1
that
to
is
1.
approximately 1.3, that's
Probably more
correct.
like 1 to 1. So 1 to 1, you can say.
Any other members' questions? Yes, ma'am.
So,
Sorry.
if Bigelow owns this property, correct? This is my understanding. So you would be working for the owner of the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All the complaints we're having is basically, and they all started when he rented this property to GVC, which is the construction company. They don't own that construction company, to my knowledge.
No.
So they're just a renter. So all the problems that he is having is from somebody he's renting to.
No,
Well, he's,
they've added to the back of their property. He owns that, that's not JVC. He owns that, and they pushed their back parking lot further back into the wetlands. That's the owner.
Right,
do
but
the
I'm
work.
saying it's GVC that's actually doing the work. It's their equipment. So,
We can only
The owner.
deal with the owner, that's what I'm
Deal with the
saying.
owner. Unfortunately, we cannot deal with the tenant
Well,
unless.
this is what I'm saying, so then all that stuff is owned by GVC, so that's not gonna really affect, we can sit here and talk about this forever. That's not gonna have anything to do with us,
Um,
this meeting.
This meeting particularly is gonna be, we deal in wetlands and stormwater.
Right, so everything we're doing is, everything I just said
As far
means
as the
nothing.
view, no, but as far as it's ugly looking, that's got nothing to do with them
Right,
at all.
right.
It's just gotta do
That's the
with.
property owner.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though,
That
if
gate's
you're a
a property
property owner,
owner.
you're responsible for your property.
Right.
That's correct.
So,
And that's why we're dealing directly with the property owner.
We
Whether-
want trees all,
It doesn't matter who does the damage or who does the work. We can only deal with the property owner. If it's one of his tenants, that's between the tenant and the owner.
right.
Whoever, if there's wetlands filling, whoever did it, whether it's a tenant or the owner, if this particularly one would have been the owner at the time putting the septic system, I would think, but. So that's all this commission can deal in is wetlands and stormwater. So, yes, ma'am.
When they repaved the parking lot, because I have some pictures of the old loading docks in 1995, and then I have pictures of when the parking lot was repaved. It looks to me like they changed the runoff. It's slanted so that all of the water goes down now, and it goes toward these people who are complaining in the back. It's awfully wet and murky down there. It's very unpleasant.
Unfortunately, if it's not within a resource area or a buffer zone, we do not have jurisdiction over that. So, and at the time, I'll have to go back, but we weren't even in charge of stormwater at the time. That was just handed to us a few years back. So something like that is more building department related and stuff like that. Because if it's outside the resource area, we can't tell them what to do. That's
My
now the building
concern was
department.
the extra water flow that would be going down in that area,
Right,
because it would be going down into the wetlands.
correct. And then it would affect us.
So I thought it would affect you.
It's all gonna get looked at. That's all I can promise you at this point.
Well, I believe the sidewalk is gonna tell everybody a lot.
Yeah, and that's our plan. Anybody else like to speak? All right, we will continue this to our next hearing. Angela, if you could, set up a site walk. Thank you.
Thank you
We'll be
very
in
much for
touch,
your time.
please, thank you.
When's the next meeting?
April 10th, I'm sorry, April
that's all right.
10th,
Thank you.
6 o'clock, the same room.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you for your
And
time.
ladies. Good luck.
Yes, sir. One more to go. All right, we're going to move on to our 6:05 hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public meeting to consider an RDA by Leominster Credit Union regarding the proposed removal of a failed area drain and placement of a new trench drain system, address 20 Adams Street, map 14, lot 10. It looks like it's DEP file number 199-1067.
Thank you. For the record, Jim Bernardino with Bowler Engineering, here tonight representing, obviously, the Leominster Credit Union. Regarding the request for determination for a very minor project, which is to replace a failing yard drain within a sidewalk between a very narrow area. Just to give you a general idea of where the project is situated, we have the bank's main building here, and we do have the Wingisnock Brook running east-west. Obviously, there is a riparian zone associated with that, as well as a floodplain. The area in question that we're talking about is actually on the opposite side of the river, which is their remote ATM facility that they have. Very small area. They have a small building that they house a couple employees to have multiple drive-up windows. The area that we're talking about, which has been very problematic for their operations over time, is between a small area, an existing retaining wall in the back of the building. We just kind of go into a zoom-in view for you. So basically, we're zoomed into the area. This is a very small area. housing the employees. We do have a canopy with the drive-up windows. Adams Street right here. There's a small low-lying retaining wall that butts up against the back of the sidewalk, about 4 feet high. And we have a very narrow passage between the rear of the building where they access their facility. There is a very small failing yard drain in the back there, about this big. And it has about an inch and a quarter pipe leading out of it. So you can imagine that over time, this has a tendency to clog, because this is generally a low-lying area behind the building. There's no area of relief if it happens to pond. The relief is inside the building. So we want to address that concern. Addressing that concern involves, obviously, discontinuing that operation. We're going to, along the face of the retaining wall, we're going to install a trench drain. We're going to remove a portion of the sidewalk around the back of the building just to make sure everything pitches there. So you will not see any dramatic changes, but it's just going to be a matter of an inch or two to make sure we pitch towards the drain. The previous drain connected way out in the parking lot over here. So to minimize impact, we took the shortest route to connect to the existing drainage system, which ultimately all runs interconnected, discharging to the river. So with that proposal is a very minimal impact. We're within existing developed areas, sidewalks, and within a very small area of the drive aisle. So the proposal is to do a quick repair to minimize exposure of soils. Obviously, everything that's going to get dug up is going to be a very narrow trench, and we're going to be replacing everything that's disturbed in kind. What's being disturbed is just a small sidewalk and a minor trench connecting to the drain pipe. With that, we believe that the request of determination is an applicable process, but obviously we'll defer to the commission, and we think that the impacts are very de minimis to the resource areas that, ultimately, if you concur, we would love to see if we get a negative determination from the commission regarding the proposed development. With that, that's the quick and dirty. Open up to the commission for any questions, concerns, or comments that you may have.
Mr. Gino?
I know what you said, it's very minor. This is in the floodplain, so there's no floodplain
No.
elevation?
No, not at all. If anything, we're going to be adding maybe 1 cubic foot of storage.
Okay.
Because right now, all the drain is, if you want to call it, pitched to the middle here. So we're going to be pitching from the finished floor door back.
Okay.
So if anything, we're changing the grade by a couple inches to be lower to make sure that we do pitch to the drain. So no impacts to the floodplain.
How quick is quick?
How quick is quick? I would anticipate any contractor with any muster would be in and out of there in 2 days.
2 days?
That's what my gut check would be. If there's any longer, then I would be kicking the guy to get a different contractor. I would think demolition, installing of the drain pipe would be day one, form it day one for your concrete, come in with a pour the next day, your pavement patch within the same day. It should be a relatively quick and hopefully harmless. Obviously, they want to do this as expeditiously as possible because this will have impact on their operations. So hopefully they would select the best contractor, not necessarily the cheapest one, but sometimes you can get both. It's a really minor job, but we think it would be probably 2-3 day job tops. Hopefully in and out in one if you get a good guy. Work in the morning, it's the guy's not afraid to run to the plant and grab 2 tons of pavement to patch it.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Do you have a recommendation? Or would you like me to recommend?
I think you can recommend it.
All right. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a negative determination for 20 Adams Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to the team.
Thank you.
All right, pursuant to, next hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there will be a public meeting to consider a request for determination by Manusnaut Country Club regarding the proposed maintenance of drainage ditch that traverses the golf course, address 40 Manustock Ave, map 393, lot 1, no DP. We have someone representing the applicant.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You want me to do something? Sure. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're asking permission to reclaim an existing ditch system. It's pretty much had a big silt problem. We've kind of developed that since they started working on the farm up in back there. Cut down a lot of trees. I think we're getting a little bit more water there than, I don't know the calculations on the water that we're gaining now that we didn't have before.
Right.
And a lot of the silt came off the farm also, I think it's safe to say. So what's happening is we're just looking to reclaim the existing. We have no intention of going any deeper, any wider. We just want to get, there's probably a good 2 feet of silt there in a 3 foot, 3.5 foot ditch. And what's happened is the drainage on one of the golf holes, okay, comes out into the ditch and it's below the silt line at this time. So we held water over there on one hole until like the middle of June last year, which was counterproductive to a lot of things we're doing over there. So essentially we kind of determined, we went out and took a look at it, and we determined that was going on. So we're basically just looking for permission. I can't imagine that they'd be there more than a couple days. My gut reaction would be with a small backhoe. I don't think a mini excavator is going to work because it's so wet. And have to have something rubber tired out there. And just want to get the silt out of the brook. Excuse me, the ditch. We're also aware of the brook over there, Manustock Brook, and we're not touching anything to do with that.
Okay. Questions or comments from the commission members?
So, which one, there, I know there's a stream, I think that one is near the watering pond, is that?
Sure, when you first come on property there and you go over the bridge,
Yeah.
and you go over to your right, there's a pump with the watering pond. That, I believe, is a piece of Manustock Brook, okay, and then it goes down underneath Burridge Ave. Okay, we're referring to the two brooks, excuse me, the two ditches, I'm sorry. The two ditches up, what would that be? That'd be east, probably northeast of there. And what's happened is, and we're not talking about the entire ditch, but we're talking about a couple of places where it's just washed in. Considerably loss of depth. We're actually, it's been a pretty busy winter down there as far as the amount of water we took on. Actually, we moved it all pretty well, but it would move much better if we could, if we could get it dug up.
I'd like to, I mean, it's been a while since I've been out to that site. I think I didn't get a chance to see it beforehand. I think it would probably be good, at least for me, to be able to just see it and make sure.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable,
Okay.
just to see what we're looking at. Unless we have some sort of indication that there are definitely drainage ditches.
That I don't know, so.
Could you come show us where on the property, if you don't mind?
Sure, what we're trying to determine what we want to do. Just bear with me here so I get my bearings.
So it looks like there's the driveway in the building right there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Manustock Brook
Right.
here. Okay, we have no intentions of going anywhere near there. There's a ditch here,
Mhm.
comes down through here. Basically, that would be, it comes across 3 of the golf holes on the golf course. Starts here, comes all the way down, goes underground under Burridge from here into the ditch. There's another one right up here that starts, I just want to make sure you guys.
Looks like there's one.
It actually starts way up here. The ditch up here. Starts here, comes right down through here, goes across, comes here.
And where's the headwaters for those?
Downhills this way. So I wouldn't say headwaters. There's as far as the headwater goes for the thing, I mean, I'm not, a civil or conservation guy or a water guy, but at the same time, I can tell you that we've taken on a lot more water since none of these trees are here anymore. They were all on the farmland,
Okay.
and they cut them all down. So since then, we're getting a lot of, we held water here for a lot of time last year that we had never done. It's wet here, it's wet there. And basically because the ditch is so high, we can't move the water fast enough. It just sits.
sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And those ditches that you're calling them now,
Yeah.
those discharge into drainage pipes that eventually go underground near those
Correct.
homes?
Correct. I believe that this, Chuck, what was the date, 1920 something? The place was built, something like that. I think this was built in the 20s. And there hasn't been any changes made there since then.
They actually go
Oh,
under
excuse me,
people's houses.
1908.
The pipes actually go under people's garages and their houses. And,
Okay.
On Barrett, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me, it was 1908. I'm not that old. I feel like it today.
But, all right.
Okay?
So I think I have the same concerns that Larry does, just in terms of, what's jurisdictional for us by seeing it.
Sure.
We'll know whether they're actual streams or if they're ditches that you're describing it. And also, I think that before we'd issue anything, I'd want to see some type of best management practice narrative in terms of if you get to the point where we would be entitled to condition you to go in there with equipment to kind of dredge that out, redefine that channel. If you get to that point, my concern there is the exposed soils, that first flush, the next rain event, it's going to go downstream into those storm drains. Those storm drains at some point are going to discharge into a resource area if that's not one. So I'd want to see what's going to prevent that from happening once everything's initially scraped. So if you could think about that in the interim too.
Okay, so the best practice as far as the way that we're gonna eliminate the silt from the drainage ditch?
Once you initially scrape it and redefine it, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I understand your concern with silt being introduced to the site from
Yeah.
off-site, so that's something that we'd want to be interested in seeing too, I would think. But if you get to the point where you're actually doing some work within that, that's a pretty long channel.
Yeah.
If you're in throughout that whole length of it, you get a good rain event and it's just going to erode and go into the drainage system and it's going to hit a resource area at some point.
Okay.
So
Would you suggest we get somebody other than a couple of laymen like ourselves to come with you on this trip?
I would think that would be.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to be a wise guy, I'm just
Right.
saying, we wanna do the right thing, and that's why we're here.
There's a number, I mean, if you know someone, great, but there's a number of different professions that deal
Yeah,
with that.
I think I know some people,
Okay.
probably, that would help me well and help.
Okay. I just,
You came in for a determination, but what, it might be better, like, after you talk to somebody, Lake Samoset Association, they've sort of developed their own set of best practices, and they've actually filed for an order of conditions, and every year, every year they come in and give us an update, and before they do any work, they actually have sort of a prescribed best practices, kind of like what Brad's talking about.
Okay.
And it allows them to do ongoing maintenance without having to come back every single time. You would just notify the commission that, hey, under our order of
When we
conditions.
were here last year, do you know what we did last year? I wasn't familiar, I don't think Chuck and you might have been here, but I wasn't
Yeah,
here.
we took a rotting, a
Cold,
pipe
pipe, yeah.
that was in the
So-
ground in Manusant Brook. That was collapsing, so we took that out.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
To-
But
Okay.
I think what you're talking about is a little bit more of
Well-
a, kind of an ongoing maintenance,
Sure.
and,
Well, essentially, we came here, we brought Michael out there. Michael was kind enough to come out with the both of us, and we took what his advice was and came here with that.
okay,
That's what brought us here,
okay.
so.
So we're kind of new to the club, we've been there less than 10 years, so we understand that there's been problems in the past, and we just want to make sure we do it the right way before we touch
Yeah,
anything.
we know of one problem that took place down the brook, so, months, 3 years ago now, because,
I would think if you got an engineer involved, they could probably steer you in the right direction. Because it sounds like I think Brad was saying, if you get
like an ongoing
silt
maintenance
coming in,
plan is
kind of
what
a
we
more of
need.
an ongoing
Well,
practice.
I guess my thought on that is if it's not within our jurisdiction, why get to the point where you do a notice of intent and have no conditions?
That's
But I
that's
think
the whole thing.
rather than engage an engineering firm at this point, you might want to start with somebody who's either a wetland scientist. A lot of those types of people are also erosion control certified as well.
Okay,
take a quick look at it. It's pretty quick to probably walk something like that and get a good sense of whether it's jurisdictional. And then they could give us a brief narrative or meet us on the site walk, for instance, and that way you know what you're dealing with from there. If it turns out that it's jurisdictional, I think I'd be inclined to think along the same lines as Larry, that you're filing a notice of intent at that
Sure,
point and
okay.
getting an order of conditions.
Okay.
But
Okay.
until we see it, we don't know.
No,
It
totally
would behoove
understood.
you to have
That's why we're
somebody
here.
go out
That's
there
why
ahead
we're
of
here.
time and kind of start getting that information for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did read the history on what you heard before, which was that pipe, correct? Yeah, jurisdictional or not, that seems something worthy of a negative determination anyway, whether that was a ditch or a stream, for instance.
Okay.
So it was the appropriate approach for that. This,
Yeah.
without knowing the jurisdiction status, we can't tell you if this is the appropriate form
Yeah,
at
not a
this
problem.
point.
No, totally understood.
Okay.
We're just trying to proactively do it in
Sure.
a correct way.
Okay. So yeah, we can, why don't we continue this to the next meeting, I guess, in the meantime, if you wanna talk to your people, and then contact Angela and just kinda say, hey, this is where we're at. If
Yeah.
you need to push it off a couple meetings, or, I know your
Yeah.
season's coming up and you wanna
Well,
get this
yeah,
done before the
I would
season, I
think-
get that,
I
so.
mean, candidly with you guys, we're somewhat time sensitive at this point because
Correct.
we've already lost 2 or 3 weeks of the month here, and we're gonna be wet for quite a while down there.
Correct.
So I think what we're just trying to do is, and I can find, the scientist, I think, pretty
Okay.
much in a,
Sure.
I can beat the bushes, but I think I know of a couple people that can help me do that. So,
Yeah, and I think if you can get that kind of going and done before the next meeting, maybe we can get a site walk, we got a couple here we need to do.
That'd be
Maybe we
great.
can incorporate it, and, by April 10th, maybe we could
Sure, that would be
have
awesome.
something to vote on, or to at least
Okay.
a direction to go.
So my takeaway is I will get the scientist and talk to
Yeah.
you guys, and we'll figure out from there.
I think that's your best bet, and
Okay,
we
great.
should be able to get this on your hand pretty quick, I would think, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Our next meeting is April 10th. April 10th.
Okay, April 10th, okay?
Thank you. All right, wow, we're going through this meeting too fast. All right, let's move on to our regular meeting. Certificates of compliance, Pleasant Street Solar. I know that one, Mr. Colombo went up and did some investigation.
I took a walk.
And what'd you find besides solar panels?
There was quite a bit of erosion as you entered the site on
Down
that
at that
first,
kind of
that
level.
first embankment.
Yep.
Looks like it's being fed from the road. And that continued on down to the dip as you would approach the site. And then as you're going up the hill, coming out of the wet area, there was more erosion from the embankment on the left-hand side, looking at the facility. Actually, quite a bit. Some of that embankment, there's no growth at all.
Okay.
Some of the plantings around the, the green shielding didn't take, it's dead.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be replaced.
Okay.
But I would say they're nowhere near a certificate of compliance work that needs to
Okay.
be done there.
Was there supposed to be planting further back or just on the front?
It just goes along,
The front fence?
that side fence, I call it the side
Side
fence.
fence.
Where we came out with that other job through the woods and we were standing right there at that facility. There's 5 or 6 of the plantings that are,
Okay.
Wish they grew
they're brown.
trees. Yeah.
They don't look good.
So the replication area did not take and/or needs more work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, I just wanted to let you know, I'm here from Nextamp about Pleasant Street Solar.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay.
just to let you know, that's why I wanted to be here so I could, talk to the commission and just
Okay.
see where we're at and what we need to do or what needs to be fixed or.
I will apologize, I have a terrible memory. I know there was some replication areas in this erosion area.
Yeah, there were 2
Basically-
replication areas.
Correct.
Yep.
And obviously you guys needed a COC, to close out that project. But part of that was growing vegetation. Like you heard, Mr. Colombo went out there and it sounds like there's some erosion going on. A lot of the vegetation that was put in there is now dead. And Paul, you think it's definitely not in hibernation, it is now brown and dead, because they were evergreens, right?
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Some of the arborvitaes you're talking about along the fence there, is that what we
Yeah,
were
the
referring
pines,
to?
I think they're white pines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So-
about 5 or 6 of them that.
Are you talking about like in front of where the stockade fence is, going
Yes.
along there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that we can definitely have taken care of, that, because that's warranted anyway, so, I mean, we'll take care of that. Where you were talking about coming down the road, I had talked with Marco about this, Angela, I'm sorry, I don't know if Marco had a chance to even talk to you about any of this or not, but anyways, I had gone over this with him in regards to, okay, all this is washing down from the road and coming down. I've had that whole area there done over a couple times already. We even put up I even had like a berm put up there, which I think you might have possibly have noticed, that I tried to put some riprap up there with just to berm it up, because the water was coming down there so much that it was literally coming down and washing the bank away. So we tried to, fix that as much as we could. I know Marco did get a hold of the DBW to let them know that they needed to fix that, because if you go up a little bit further, you can see where they bermed it with asphalt, but for some reason they stopped.
Yeah.
They didn't come down further. So if they would have, bermed it down all the way like they should have, or like it should be, then that would have stopped that water from coming onto the site like that and eroding that away more than what it was doing. I think other than that, we'd have been okay, because we had seeded that and everything, and it was all growing up pretty good. But once that water started coming over there, through there, it just kind of just whittled it all away. Or not all of it, but I mean a lot of it. But, and the same thing on the other side, as you say, you go down in the dip and you start coming up, and on the left side there.
Left-hand side.
Yeah, there's like a little hill right there. It was the same. That started coming up, and but I don't think that had a chance to really probably firm up there before the water really started taking it.
From what I could see, it's in some areas nothing, and the best growth is probably 50%.
Yeah.
So that's going to need some attention.
Yeah, so that's no problem there. I mean, we'll go in there and do whatever we have to do. I mean, not only is it part of the order of condition, but I mean, we just don't walk away from things like that. I mean, that's something we're going to take care of, and whatever needs to be addressed there, I mean, we'll address all of that. I know there was a second replication area that was in question, not the one that's on the side of the road, but it was a little bit further back. I had sent Marco some pictures. I don't know if he got a chance to send them to you guys or not. He told me he was going to pass them on. I don't know if he had a chance to look at them or not. But that replication area was done closer to the fall, so a lot of the vegetation didn't have a chance there to really start growing up. And I guess at that point, barring these other issues, I was going to ask the commission if, because I mean, for us, I mean, now this is becoming more of a financial issue of being able to close the site, as far as the banks and everything are concerned, and the financing and stuff. But I mean, if you could possibly consider just putting in some condition that say, okay, this has to be taken care of, and then, we revisit it in 2 or 3 months to make sure that it's at the level that it needs to be. I don't know if that's a possibility. I'm just asking if that's something that you guys, you all would consider. But I mean, anything that needs to be done, I mean, Marco, he was out there many times. He's been there since day one. He knows that if I give my word on something, I'm good for my word, and I will do what needs to be done. That's never been an issue, and I've taken care of everything on the site that needs to be taken care of, no matter how small. And I mean, I think we did a pretty good job of taking care of everything, and I know he was happy with everything, because I had him out there on a regular basis checking everything out, just to make sure that everything was the way it was supposed to be. So, like I said, I'm just asking, that you possibly consider that, just from our perspective, from a financial perspective. But I mean, we're more than willing to do everything that needs to be done to make sure that the growth is there, everything else, the erosion problem is taken care of. I mean, the part about the street, the berm on there, I mean, there's not really a lot we can do with that. I mean, we can try to berm it up some more, but without it being bermed up properly by the city, you know, we might continue to have an issue with that, and I don't know how you guys really want to address that if the city's not taking care of that. I mean, there's only so much that we can do.
Right.
But I mean, as far as anything else that's on the site that's concerned, I mean, we're more than more than willing to do whatever we have to do as far as that's concerned. I mean, that's not an issue. I mean, that's part of the order of conditions. So I mean, it's not even a question of whether or not we will or not. I mean, it'll be done.
No, I appreciate you being here. I will tell you that me personally, and I guess historically, this commission does not like to issue certificates of compliance with stuff still waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't know, how about any other commission members? You know, I'd like to see at least it fixed and kind of back in the growing season, whether it's a month or two from now. But if we issue a certificate of compliance, I trust you, you look like you have a good face, but I don't trust anybody. So, you know.
Totally understand.
So it's just a matter of, you know, usually this, you know, certificates of compliance are after project complete, and at this point, I don't know if it's actually complete or not, so. Any other commission members have comments or questions?
I'll just quickly add to that because I feel similar to you do, but you know, the short answer is if we issue a certificate of compliance, we've lost our hook to require you to do the work. At the same time, you've lost the ability to legally do anything after that because you no longer have an order of conditions. So you'd be in violation of working in any of these areas that you need to ultimately fix.
So I didn't know if that you could
right.
make
It's
it
for your benefit and our benefit that the order stays in place until the work's done.
Right. No, I understand. I just didn't know if there was a way that you could just add that other condition to it to say, okay, this has to be done and this has to be done. Also,
Exactly.
you know, I don't know, so I'm not familiar with that, so that's why I ask.
Not really, in my experience, when people try to do it that way, that certificate doesn't satisfy whoever's looking for it.
Okay.
So if there's an attorney somewhere looking to get something wrapped, they see that language, they'll read that as it's, oh, there's really still work ongoing, you're not done. So it's.
Okay. Well, then I have one more question for you, the commission. As far as, well, one, what would you be looking at for a timeline for that, for the regrowth and all that stuff to be taken care of? I mean, what kind of timeline would you be looking at so that we can revisit this to you know, get this closed out? And also, as far as the berm from the street side, I mean, like I said, if I go up there and we fix all that again, because I can tell you right now, I've already done it twice.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, to do that now, as you can well imagine, starts getting a little costly to keep fixing it and then getting it washed away because it's not fixed on the street. So
And DPW fixed it the first time? They put the original berm in?
there was a berm there to begin with, original one, because that's why when I talked to Marco and he came up there and he looked at it and he said there was a berm here. You could see, you know, like, you know, over time it's going to wear down between plowing and, you know, road use and everything like that. And that's basically what's happened. But I know when he had mentioned it, he says, well, I'll call the guy at the DPW and talk to him. And he says, you know, we'll see if we can get that fixed. Well, at one point, at any point, if you're up there, if you look on the street, there's certain parts where you can see where they went up there and they fixed the berm, but they didn't do it there. It's almost like they did it everywhere else, but they just didn't do it there. So it's just, you know, a matter of, okay, how do we address this now? So, I mean, I don't, you know, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix what I have to fix, but I mean, it's kind of counterproductive to go over there and fix it again, and then we have that same issue coming down, which now leaves the responsibility to us to keep going back and fixing it until it gets done. You see what I mean?
We can have our agent, Angela, reach out to the DPW and see if we can get that berm fixed or enlarged or lengthened or whatever needs to happen to stop that erosion. Because it's, once you guys are done, there's still going to be erosion, obviously.
Right.
And the bottom is that wetlands area, so.
Right. And
it sounds like even when you guys walk away, potential could be.
Yeah, because I mean, you have a utility company using it also. I mean, it's not, literally, it's not just for us. It's their access road too to get into the site, to get to their power lines. So, I mean, it's kind of, it would kind of be a shared problem, so to speak.
Fingers that,
So,
that is.
We can definitely reach out to DPW, and, you know, plants should be opening, so they should be able to get some hot mix out there pretty quick. And
okay.
see what-
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem right there. If it wasn't for that right there, if we had that berm there originally, I mean, that erosion that was up there at the top of the driveway, it wouldn't be there. You wouldn't
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
So,
We are going to wait on this, and we will contact DPW and see if we can, I guess.
Is the berm like a catch-22 issue? Was the berm there before the driveway was cut to work this project?
based on what I saw there and from the contractor that was there was a berm there, but they didn't cut the berm down. I mean, it was already kind of flattened down when they
Right.
widened the road. And then we, you know, of course, once we were done, we kind of closed it back up so that that other part wasn't needed because of the equipment that was going in there. So we don't need that wide of a road. So, I mean, you can, if you actually look at it, you can see where, like, for example, if you say, like, here's the side of where the dirt line is and the side of the road, you can see where the actual pavement is actually, like, gone.
It's
It's
undercut,
like,
yeah.
instead of the road being, coming all the way to here, it's like actually does one of these numbers on the further out.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the things that I had discussed with Marco. I mean, if we have to, if it was something that was our responsibility to fix, I mean, I have no problem with fixing it. But it was something that, it's beyond what
Sure. It's
would have been our responsibility.
Yeah. I just wonder if they were slow to get in there to fix it, thinking that the project hadn't been completed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This one?
Not to drag this out longer, but I haven't seen it, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the street curbing could possibly solve the problem. But at the same time, we don't have any control over the DPW for doing that. There's nothing on our end that can force them to do that. So hopefully, if our agent reaches out to them and they're agreeable to doing it, that takes care of it. But if not, I mean, there's always plenty of other options. If you have your consultant firm take a look at the site, see if there's any other BMPs that can be introduced on site just to keep it from happening. You may be able to solve it another way. But we'll start with the DPW, see what happens there, but it's something else to think about. We can't, you can't manage the street, DPW can't manage your site, so you can kind of only take care of your own things sometimes.
Right. No, I understand completely.
That's, I mean, we could reach out, but they might say, yeah, we'll get to it
Yeah, no,
next
believe me.
November before we
Believe me, I
finish up,
understand.
so.
But, I mean, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the
Okay.
time, and I don't want to drag it out, because I know you have
That's all
other
right.
issues to deal with too, so nobody wants to be here all night.
That's right. So, you have his name?
Yes, I do.
You do, okay.
Yeah, and Angeline will give you, if you don't mind, I'll give you one of my cards, and if you could just contact me, and we'll go from there, excuse me.
Keep it in the loop, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next one is 98 Saks Boulevard. That one, obviously, I'm assuming everybody still wants to wait, because we're
Nothing growing down there yet.
correct. Sheldon Hill Drive, again, I know there was some erosion, and Mr. Colombo, I appreciate the pictures. But we're still waiting on a letter stating they're aware. Wasn't that one of the things?
That was
we-
one of the holdups.
Yep, and there was still some,
The wetland plaques are in place. I think there were 3 of them,
was it? Okay.
and they're clearly visible. But the
Okay.
erosion, I mean, that whole fenced area, I don't know what they use it for, but it's ready to collapse.
Yeah. I remember seeing some pictures, so.
So there's some repairs that need to be done there before we sign up.
Right, okay. In 15 Rumbrook, Angela, that was put on too late, so we're gonna have to wait on that one until our next meeting. Because that was put on yesterday, you said,
Yesterday.
yeah.
First thing I did.
Yep. So we're gonna wait on that one, just because it wasn't on the agenda in time. So, just put it on next meeting's agenda, so. Do we have any extension permits? We have no communications that I'm aware of. Okay. Minutes from January 23rd. have we been issued them? Has anybody seen them? I don't think I've seen them.
No.
Okay. Can you just,
That was one of my things to follow up on.
yeah, ask Mr. Bengrazi what's going on with those? Because I don't think I've seen them, so.
I think he did send those up.
Huh?
I think he did send
He,
those.
he,
to
he
us.
may have, if he did send them, I know I reviewed them and I had no
Yeah.
issues because I would have brought up an issue.
Yeah.
It's just
I
it's
think
been a
I
little
remember
while.
reading those, but I don't have all my mail on the phone.
Looks like
Although-
Mr. Stone's gonna look it up for
Brad's
us.
got it on his magic.
So handy.
He's got tonight's lottery number. If we get out of here in time, we could all be rich.
Yeah, if you win, you're sharing it, just to let you know.
I don't know. I got a colleague that bought the Powerball one instead of the Mega Millions, so not gonna be sharing much.
Do you remember? If you read them, reviewed them?
I don't recall seeing them
Okay.
personally.
Well, if nobody's reviewed them, then
Then you're right.
right.
Yeah,
So
why
I'm
don't
not
we
gonna look them up.
track
Find
them,
those,
track them
yeah.
up and see.
Yeah.
I remember seeing something recently, but maybe it was a little longer than recently, so.
I'll look at my computer when I get home.
Okay. This is listed under new business, but I don't know if it should be old business, but 96 Exchange Street, DEP file 199-1061. Is there someone representing the applicant? We appreciate your time.
Well, this has been closed, keep in mind too.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
close.
So-
So technically, I'm not supposed to say a word, so unless asked and called upon.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's what you were here for.
That's it.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Quick recap. Last time we met, we did close the public hearing for this project. We tried to take action and we were unable to because of the lack of quorum. So, I believe everybody here at this table, with the exception of Larry, can participate at this point.
Yes, I will state for the record that I did miss the first meeting of this back on October 24th. I did review the video of that along with the minutes for that meeting in full, so that gets me up to speed on that. So I will be able to vote on this NOI, I believe. Yes.
Any discussion?
I guess my only question, Kent, is I don't believe there was anything withstanding.
No, there wasn't anything withstanding, but there was a number of conditions. Mostly from Mr. Colombo's witness of work starting and stopping. I know he did stop out there,
Correct.
and that was one thing that was in a condition.
Okay.
Until such time that an order conditions what may be granted, that he had to stop work.
Okay.
That was one of the conditions.
I
think
do
that-
remember that. I believe all the plan work
Yep.
was addressed. All the stormwater calculations that we were having issues with had
Yep.
been addressed.
I think I want to say there was one other condition, I can't remember what it was, about the work. Oh,
I have some that.
yes, the foundations being, yes, Mr. Stone, if you would be so kind.
I had concerns about the sequencing, so I wanted to see that the binder pavement be installed and you had functioning drainage utilities with stabilization of the stormwater pond prior to any framing of the buildings.
Okay.
That was something that I felt strongly on.
Okay.
In other words, all the foundations had to be in
I remember.
with the binder.
Paving, drainage, foundation.
Has the work stopped out there?
There's been no work since the work
Last-
stopped.
Last I remember, you witnessed work. I believe Marco issued a cease and desist.
Yes, he did.
There was some question of were we in the buffer or not, but I know
I
that
think-
kind of is null and void at
It's
this
like a
point.
15-foot difference or something.
Yep.
Can I ask what kind of cease and desist he issued? Was it
I didn't
Verbal.
see it.
verbal? Okay.
Was it verbal?
Yeah, it wasn't written.
Okay.
Okay. I did send him an email, I don't know if I CC you on it, Brad. I don't think I had your right email because it came bouncing back at me.
Probably. I had an email that you.
And it was, so anyways, it was just basically because I promised the commission that I would lay into my client saying, thanks a lot for getting yelled at the meeting.
I only asked that because if he did issue the, enforce the WPA form, that's something that we'd have to ratify at this point, so.
Okay.
There's nothing to ratify.
Okay.
Can I, just for clarification, when the project was presented, it was stated that in excess of 4 inches of snow would be trucked off the site. And I assume that was for the existing units as well, not just the new units that are being proposed.
That was for the new units, because there's plenty of storage, snow storage on that site at the end of the cul-de-sac for the existing ones down below.
So
And
we
that
have
was,
to
in the
say-
notice of intent that we're working on right now, only goes for the units that we're at right now, not the old ones. But there is, if you go down the cul-de-sac, there's
Right.
room in the cul-de-sac, and there's room that's outside the buffer zone, right at the end of the cul-de-sac, on that end.
Because that snow was piled up there pretty high with the last storm, and I was just thinking, I wonder if they want to practice removing.
You're talking the old,
The old,
right, development.
right.
All I would
So I was
suggest-
unclear as it was
All I
going
would
to be the
suggest,
entire
Paul,
thing.
is if that, next snowstorm, just, hopefully next year, that the commission would go out there and see, because if it is within the buffer zone and they push it further in, please let us know, and we can address that, because that's under your jurisdiction of that snow storage.
I go by 2 or 3 times a day, I live right up the street, so
Well, then,
I see it.
He's the watchdog of the neighborhood.
you have my email, just pop me an email, and I'll lay into my client again.
Now, do we also need the easement recorded for the
Yes.
pond as
The
well?
easement.
There was
We had a
easement that
river.
was created that
Correct.
allowed them to go on to the other
Correct.
property to,
We
okay.
submitted a
And-
verbal and a plan to the commission, it's in the file. You just want the book and page.
So I would
Love that.
suggest that that gets recorded prior to commencement of work.
Okay.
That's fine.
Was there any other conditions that anybody could think of? I know, Mr. Colombo, you were pretty involved in this project, so.
I'm all set. I'm still not happy with the detention basin, but it is what it is.
Okay. So, at this point, I guess, do I have a motion to issue a standard order of the conditions along with, I'll try to read all these added conditions. Right now, there's having the easement plan and verbiage. That's what I'm looking for, issued, ratified, whatever, before.
Recorded.
Recorded, that's what I'm looking for. Before the start of work. The binder course or first lift of pavement, along with all drainage and foundations, be installed before any wood framing or building starts. I would also like to add, now that we have a agent on staff, that a 48-hour written, either through email and or call, be made prior to start of work. Also, I would like the agent to review any on-site silt fencing or erosion controls. Yes, sir.
I think one more thing was the SWIP reports that the commission asked for. Not that it might be more work for me, but I think that was one more condition. I know it's gonna come because that ties into your new agent
Right,
reviewing on-site work. So the
Right.
SWIP reports that coincide with that.
okay. But Angela, if you could review any erosion controls per the plan before work starts, because it's a pretty sensitive site. Obviously, the standard order of conditions along with the boilerplate that's the added conditions that I have. Do I have a motion for standard order conditions boilerplate with those or something else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions, I'm gonna get the street number right this time, for 96 Exchange
Yep.
Street. DEP file number 199-1061 with the conditions you just mentioned. And I do want to go one step beyond with the stormwater. I would like to see that either temporary or permanent curbing is in addition to the binder prior to
That
the
would
frame
have to
activities as
be,
well.
yeah, because I would just slide right
Right,
out.
slide right over, yep.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll
All
second.
right. All in favor? Opposed? And abstained?
Abstain.
Did you get all those, Sandy?
Mhm.
Okay. If you could, again, follow up with our agent and please visit the site as soon as possible and make sure things are good to go out there, if you could.
You have my card if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much, people. It's been a long haul. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Old business, 767 Willard Street. I'm not aware of anything new. Angela, do you know of this project?
No, I do not.
Uh, Okay, this project was an existing home that was put in, I don't remember how long ago. It's been a little while. And the project at one point had some conservation land assigned to it, and now this person's driveway has conservation land running through it. So I guess there was a meeting scheduled or set up or trying to be set up between the mayor's office and the property owner to figure out how do we deal with this person's driveway that, was not their fault, but it was kind of designated conservation land after the driveway was installed, so put that on your things to follow up list. And that's 767 Willard Street, and I believe it's the side driveway, because the house actually sits on Willard, correct? And then remembers, I think it sits on Willard, but there's a road, I think it's actually the side driveway, I believe, if memory serves me right, so.
Yeah, it's not on Willard, it's off
I
of,
can't remember which.
it's on a corner, isn't it?
on
I think it's on a corner, the house
Yeah.
actually sits on Willard, but the driveway in
Yeah.
question goes, it's a corner lot, so.
There's like a little strip of conservation.
Yeah, it goes right through his driveway.
Right in front of it.
So that obviously needs to kind of be addressed and whatnot, so. Minusnack Brook, the retaining wall collapsed. That happened back April 5th, 2017. Emergency certification was issued down by Rollstone Bank in the back. Minusnack Brook rolls around and we had some heavy rain. We had a collapse. DPW went down and put in some large riprap stone and kind of shored up the embankment. But we've asked for plans and restoration plan from them in a timeline. Last we knew, they had secured at least the funding, and help me guys, and did they hire an engineer or did they just secure the funding for the engineer?
It was just the funding for the engineer.
Okay.
It was 15.
So that's kind of where it sits, but it's with DPW. We've asked for, because what's happened since the collapse, it's changed the flow of the river, of the brook. It's now eroding some areas around the bridge abutments and things like that. So it's something we need to definitely keep on them.
We had an anniversary party.
Indeed. Next week is one year, so. But yeah, so DPW is well aware of it, but we definitely do not want this to kind of slide. So we just want to keep on it. and make sure that that process is going. I mean, it is stable, but it definitely needs to be fixed, repaired, and restored. So no matter what it is, because it's actually causing more damage, so. Anybody add anything to that? All right, enforcement, 375 Harvard Street, DP 199781. Obviously, that's the project that was in front of us this evening. So that's well under its way.
Okay, just to add to that.
Sure.
If it's okay with the chair, I'll reach out to the central office chief just to let them know about the ledge power washing that we heard this evening.
I would strongly agree with that, and I would strongly back that. Again, just like I said before, from my experience, I know it's not
It's
allowed.
not allowed.
So-
I've spent time enforcing that too, so it's not allowed.
It's not allowed, it's kind of our jurisdiction. I know the reason I bring it up because it's currently going in the storm, it's proposed to go into the stormwater, which is can't happen, so. Again, I'm not sure.
Well, it's going there now, so.
That's where it's going
yeah.
there now, and that's where they're proposing it to go, and I don't think it should be contained on site as per the regulations, so. If you could handle that, I would greatly appreciate that, if that's all right with our agent. Okay.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
723 Willard Street, the conservation land encroachment. Last we had sent a letter that was, I guess, denied or undeliverable. So we have a letter stating immediate removal. And when I did review those minutes and that video, that's when you guys had issued the letter. So it was immediate removal, and I believe there was a May 15th
May 15th.
deadline, I believe, from watching the video. So at the last meeting, we talked about this. What is our next step to get the property owner this letter? I have a feeling because they might have seen it from the Leominster Conservation Commission, it was not accepted. I think there's other ways. Mr. Stone, you mentioned you were gonna look into potential other ways to.
Yeah, I mean, there are other, I have talked to a number of people that have experience on this. There are other ways of enforcing it. I'd rather not get into that this evening because they're not necessarily approaches I think we should take. It's more of a last resort, let's say.
Okay.
What I would like to see, it seems like the issue that we've had is access to legal counsel to actually enforce this for us, for whatever reason. In the past, we've waited meeting after meeting after meeting for a letter that we were told would come from the city's law firm working for them. So if you could get some clarification, probably from the mayor, I would presume, as to our access to those services, and just bring him up to speed on this. We did issue the letter requiring the immediate removal. It got returned to us unclaimed. We may have to go the legal route of enforcing this. And I would also suggest that if he wants to speak with the commission or someone from the commission, again, if it's okay with the chair, if he wants to speak with the chair, if he wants to speak with someone else here, that's fine to bring him up to speed. If, we were told before that he was aware of this, but I don't really know if that's certain or not. But ultimately, too, one of the things that you should be aware of is when you have these encroachments on Article 97 properties, it can impact your ability to receive grants from the city. So because it's violating Article 97, you may not be eligible to get future grants. And I know the city's been proactive on those. They've taken a pretty good approach to acquiring property over the years from what I've seen. And I'd hate to lose that because we're letting something like this slip, potentially.
I'll look into that. I'll talk to the mayor and see what access we have to the legal counsel.
Do you know anything of this property?
No,
Okay. I'll just bring you at a very high level. This property owner abuts conservation land. They have since, over some time, installed a tennis court, a basketball court, a fire pit, some other structures, I think a small shed. And this was brought to our attention when they did some flyovers, as they do every so many years, of this encroachment. So this has kind of been ongoing for quite a time, I want to say a couple of years now, with really no response. At one point, we did have the property owner, along with an engineer, come in. They've asked for some stuff that we couldn't grant them, such as, a 20-year easement or purchasing the property and this, that, and the other thing, which, again, you and Mr. Stone probably know more about conservation law than I do, obviously, but it really keeps getting pushed down the road, and legal has done their share of pushing it down the road as well. So at this point, this commission, which oversees this land, would like the immediate removal and replication, or repair of the area, but we need to get this letter in the hands of the property owner, so they're aware of this legally.
Well, aside from getting, that's one thing, but getting a letter doesn't do
No,
much either. So
no,
we need to know that there's going to be something
done
behind that
with it,
letter. So if it, for some reason it doesn't come from within this building, there's other alternatives. But
Right.
I think this is the best approach to take for now.
Right. So Copeland and Page, who's the city solicitor, has been involved, but we chose to send the letter the last time directly from us, with some timelines in it, so we can hope moves it wrong. But that is the next thing. Even if the property owner does open it and sees the timelines, if he doesn't do anything, we need to know that we have recourse to go back and start fixing the property. So definitely keep that on the very high front burner, please, if you could. Any other comments? Okay. 1145 Central Street, lot paving within a riverfront. Mr. Giannakis, you mentioned something to me earlier this evening.
I drive by the site daily. With all the snow having melted, what I did notice is the limit of work actually extends beyond the berm that's in the back, because they had to level the lot and get it stable with crushed stone, and so there's actually material that extends beyond the pavement that you can actually see from Grant Street if you're taking a right onto Central Street. So
beyond the hay bales and stuff?
Yeah, beyond the hay bales and silt fence, getting even closer. So I think we have a problem that's bigger because that material isn't stable. I mean, it's...
What was the status of that one again? Did that enforcement order go unclaimed too?
I think the owner was in Florida or something. I think Marco actually knew the property owner, and he was out of state. So I think it did go unclaimed.
I have a pile in the office I can look at tomorrow.
Didn't I hear at one point that Hannigan was working on that
I
project?
thought there was an engineer involved. I just don't know where.
I thought somebody was going to develop a plan.
Yeah, what status it's at, I don't remember.
Okay.
I had thought there was a little action going on there.
Well, I guess step number one is to see if the enforcement order was received. And we can go from there.
So you think it got pushed during snow removal?
No, it was just there to facilitate
Oh, it was-
a paved, flat parking lot.
Okay.
So there was just low-lying areas that they filled in, and they had to go beyond the limit of paving.
Okay.
Sounds like it's more than what we had first anticipated
Right.
or thought it was. So. Yeah, and if it's loose crushed stone or crushed subbase, it's just going to erode right into the brook there. So, yeah, we definitely want to make sure see what the status is. Okay. And 35 Berkshire Drive, wetland fill. I do not know the status of that project. Anybody else remember? Or
The last I remember, they were taking the material away that they had brought in.
yeah,
They had to do a whole restoration.
I think there was a final report that was supposed to be submitted to from the consultant. I don't think we have that yet.
Okay.
It might not be the appropriate time for it either.
Right. I thought some work, I do remember some work they
I
were getting
remember
out.
the fill being taken away and the restoration was gonna be done in the spring, is that?
Yeah, I think that we're kind of still waiting on some spring season stuff on this one, if I can remember.
I don't think we're having a spring this year.
Okay. You were supposed to bring it with
Year
you.
round winter.
I tried.
Yeah, you're not doing a very good job.
I'll go away again.
So Angela, if you could, again, get us an update on this stuff, at least by the next meeting. You can do it through email. Thank you. Have you issued any emergency certifications in the last 2 days? Okay, I am not aware of any emergency certifications. Project updates, I'm gonna ask, but I know probably as much as you guys know, so. Looks like you're gonna ask a question.
No.
Okay. Basically, Angela, this agenda item, we kind of leave it on there because it's any NOI that's currently open. We might want to ask, or ask you to go to a site, or what's the progress, have you heard anything, stuff like that. So it's a chance for the commission members here to ask you, especially, any updates on any kind of open enforcements, NOIs, or any orders and conditions out there.
Okay.
If you know of anything. So.
Actually, I was gonna ask a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The work that was done on Exchange Street, apparently they're done. At least I haven't been there for quite some time. They've installed the guardrail.
Over on Slackbrook, yeah, I was up there.
Right.
I was up.
Isn't
Yeah,
there some
next to the
plantings that
Woodstock
are
and-
supposed to go in there as well?
I'd have to review the plans.
I seem to remember a series of bushes or
Of,
trees that are
of
supposed
up
to.
against the guardrail, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I'll-
flat area.
It's been a little while since I reviewed those plans.
So we haven't heard anything from them as far as being finished,
Okay.
as far as I know.
That's the Army Corps of Engineers over on Exchange Street in the Slackbrook. They were doing some restoration to the embankment. And it's still a little sketchy on the other side. I did notice. But it was on the road side of the embankment. There's a piece of guardrail there and stuff. So the Army Corps was doing that, and that's been going on since the fall. Started in the fall, went
Late
through the
fall.
winter time. So.
But they've been out of there now for a month anyway.
Has it been? I went over there about 2 weeks ago to look at it, and
Was Sumco the contractor?
Yeah,
Who was the contractor?
some call.
Sumco.
so.
I've got one
Yes, sir.
on the project update. Did we hear anything regarding that request for the emergency certificate on Hamilton Street area?
I
haven't
have,
seen anything.
I have not seen or heard anything. Marco hasn't
Okay.
let me, since it kind of went back and forth through email. My first thought on that was kind of the same as yours, like, it looked like it was an old thing, like it had been going on for a while. So I didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
see.
even if it was new, it didn't look worthy of an emergency status.
Yeah,
And-
nothing was of eminent domain there, imminent disaster or issues there, so.
So, okay,
I haven't seen or heard or issued
So
anything.
nothing was issued.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
And I know Marco's been pretty good about
Yeah.
keeping us in the
Yeah, I
loop if
remember him
something's
saying he's
issued.
gonna leave it up to us, and then there was conversation back and forth via email.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a safety issue, I'm all for making sure
It
it's
didn't look
safe,
like
but
the
it
end of
didn't
the
look
world,
like there was
no.
anything that was kind of out in the woods on the brook, and so
I agree.
I concurred with Mr. Stone, so. Any other project updates? All right. Budget. We usually request that you kind of keep, and you can talk to Marco, obviously, he kind of keeps like a spreadsheet, and, because I know sometimes it's very difficult to get budget numbers from the controller of the city, so. If you can bring it every meeting, great, but maybe once a month, just to keep us updated on, what's in the fund, making sure that deposits for all the applications come in and get deposited and we get credit for that, so. So we can use that money for whatever we need for the Wetlands Protection Act, so.
Yeah, there was a time when the money was just not there.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we asked and it reappeared 2 months later, so we try to stay on top of it if we can.
Yeah, it was like $60,000, it just went away and now it's back, so.
When I was doing the training budget, there's about 4,000 something odd dollars there right now.
Coming in, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know Marco, and you can talk to him about how he was doing a very good job just keeping kind of a running spreadsheet of what's coming in and making sure it at least lines up. And if that's the least we can get, that's fine. We just want to make sure that the money is going into the right place and going to the right thing, so. Did you get a chance to do a report over the last day and a half? No?
Not entirely, sorry.
Okay.
Accomplish the email setup though, right?
Yeah, I finally got access to U Drive and all the files. So.
Computer's working at least.
got to the permitting.
There you go. There
Ran
you
out of
go.
printer though, but.
So, Chairman's report, I do not have anything at this point. Our next meeting is April 10th, 2018, with a filing deadline of March 29th, 2018. Is there anything else anybody'd like to speak of?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to give our new agent some work, if I may.
Perfect.
So, again, welcome to the city. I can tell you from experience that public service can be very rewarding. It can also be very overwhelming at times when you're thrown right into the fire. But it's fun and you'll learn. One of the things, since I've been here now for I guess almost a year, and how I've seen different municipalities operate over a good 20 years or more now, is there are tools out there that can help assist boards with project reviews. And I'm curious what Leominster's already doing in other departments, particularly like the planning board, for instance. Now, what I'm specifically referring to is Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53G. And that allows for boards to engage peer reviewers for projects as they come in. So for instance, if we get a project that's above and beyond our expertise and our heads are spinning and we're trying to sort through it, what it allows is to engage a peer review consultant at the applicant's expense. So we can go out and find a suitable technical type firm, say, can you review this for us? And the applicant would then have to burden the cost for that as well. Formally, that I believe that regulation has to be adopted by the municipality. So if you can check just to see if Leominster's done that before, and ideally if planning board, for instance, is already using peer review consultants, just to see how they're handling it, what their experiences have been here.
Okay.
I can give you a lot of input of what I've seen in other municipalities, the pros and the cons of it. But I think it's something worth looking at. I think that, some of you that have been here longer than me, you've probably experienced that filings are only going to get more complicated because the amount of land that's desirable both for development is less and less and less.
Perfect.
So you're going to run into a lot of these tight, constricted sites where you're going to have potential issues.
Creative projects.
Yeah.
I want to say, since I've been on the board for 7 or so years, I think we've done it once, maybe twice, but I know of once. I can't remember the project, but we did have it was a pretty complicated project, and we did enforce, have a third-party reviewer paid for by the...
Well, I understood talking with Marco before that came out of the agency fund rather than the applicant. Like, I could be wrong there.
It wasn't supposed to, but
Yeah, I can't remember.
If somebody voluntarily did that, that's great, but you're not always gonna do
right,
it.
they're not obligated to. And
Right.
we had in the past, we would get what we did is we would get them 3 prices. We would had 3 engineering firms that we would give them the names of, and they would choose the company that gave them, that they
With 53G, you don't have to do that. You can go out and pick the best firm suitable for it.
So that's a much better solution.
Yeah.
Particularly in engineering services, you can avoid the procurement requirements for that. They're exempt from it.
And the planning board has already done it?
I don't know. That's why I'm suggesting maybe we, one first homework assignment while here,
Yeah.
just to,
Like I said, Paul, I remember in the last 7 years, we've done it once. I don't remember who paid, and that's what we did. We just said, hey, these are 3 companies that we're comfortable with. And you pick the one you'd like, and then we'll go from there. I don't remember who paid for that.
Yeah, I know we weren't
I-
supposed to, but
I think that might have even been under Joanne's, that was under
Yeah.
Joanne's tutelage, but.
because
I mean, we have, I mean, our account's pretty decent right now compared to a lot of the towns I've seen. So if we got a project tomorrow where we thought, gee, somebody really should look at this, we could afford to go
Right.
have somebody do that. But I'd rather, you know, the burden be on the applicant than it
Correct.
should be. It's-
Correct.
so.
Save our pennies in case an emergency comes up.
Okay, homework assignment number 1.
What was, so section 44?
It's chapter 44, section 53G.
Well,
You don't have all
that's
those memorized yet?
No.
But I would
I'll work on it when we have to hang out somewhere.
Yeah, I would start with the city planning office.
Okay.
They may already have been, yeah, we're doing that, we've been through it, here's,
Yeah.
so. And you don't have to set that up for each board typically, unless the city's created some strange ordinance while adopting that process. But usually once it's been adopted by the municipality, it's good across the board for everyone.
Okay.
Any other homework assignments or things you'd like to discuss?
Nah, she's buried.
She's buried already, so.
I guess what I would like to discuss. I
Yes.
received an email for an open meeting law training on April 24th. If anyone else is interested in going, I'm going to attend. It's at 30 West Street between 5:30 and 7:30. If you just want to let me know if you want to go, I can register us all. It's free, so.
Here in the city, 30 West.
Yes, 30 West Street, Leominster.
I can tell you, I've already done it, I do it regularly, so I'll pass, but I'll just add to that too, just to make sure that everybody's up to speed with the conflict of interest requirements. So if you haven't taken the quiz within the last 2 years, you want to get on the computer and do that, and then just turn in that certificate to the city clerk.
I think
did mine last year.
somewhat, yeah, I've seen it before, I've obviously done it before. I thought someone used to get an email.
I don't know if the conflict of interest police come knocking on your door here, but I get them elsewhere, so I make sure it gets done.
Yeah. I remember doing it, so I can't remember if someone
Yeah, I
must have
don't
sent
remember
an
when.
email saying, hey, can you do this
I
like that?
actually have one thing. My commission expires on April 15th of this year.
Yes.
So what's the protocol as far as renewing?
Basically, in the past, what happens is you normally get a letter from the mayor's office, the city.
Do I have to request that letter, or is it just
No,
a
normally it
common
comes. You need to, either if you want to renew or ask for
letter? It'd be crazy
reappointment.
not to, right?
Yeah, you're the man, so.
Doesn't leave.
Normally, it's just a simple email, but something in writing back to the mayor's office stating, yes, I'd like to, be looked at for reappointment, blah, blah, blah. You can sit on, again, it's been a while, but I believe you can sit on the commission until, if you do not get reappointed, you can sit on it until someone is reappointed in your spot.
Okay.
So you don't have to leave on April 15th, but before then, you should be, like I said, you normally receive a letter a couple weeks in advance, which is pretty soon.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not sure of that. My experience has been different. Once your
Has
term
it?
expires,
You're
I think
done?
you need to be re-sworn in before.
okay.
Yeah, but that's, again, not my expertise, just how I've seen board
Okay.
members handle it elsewhere.
I've always
So-
received a letter. I don't know what your experience is, if you always kind of, when your term is up, do you receive a letter from them?
yeah, you get a letter and it's like a letter, and you have to
You-
rip off the bottom. You have to go to the clerk.
They get sworn in.
they
Yeah.
sworn in.
So
Yeah.
that was my concern, that's the important part. So
Right.
when your current term expires, you need to be sworn in prior to,
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen every time, though. I mean, in the time I've been here, it doesn't happen every time.
I'll send an email this week, I'll copy you, Angela.
Yeah.
Send it
To the mayor.
to Dean's assistant / secretary, Michelle, is her name? Michelle. She kind of handled it the last time.
All right.
Because it was, I did get the letter that time and I tore it off, but you needed to kind of let the mayor know that you wanted to
Mhm.
be reappointed, so.
All right.
But that was my experience, but it sounds like yours might be a little different.
Yeah.
Things aren't always the same in the city of Leominster every time, so.
The most recent time though, I did get that paper.
Yeah,
But I did get an email, I got notified that my term was gonna expire. I think I got a letter in the mail.
yes,
And then I emailed the mayor and said I was still interested.
right. And then you sign the thing and go raise your right hand, so. If you don't see something soon, you can be proactive,
All right.
so. You should see it pretty soon, if not
I don't want to miss.
in your
it.
mailbox tonight when you go home. So,
Okay.
anything else? All right, with that, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Nice.